Enter a world where monsters have taken their place among cinematic history, but who are the real monsters? Are they the scaly creatures that haunt our nightmares? Or are they the person you see every day just casually walking down the street? What happens when man outweighs the monster on the screen and creep into our lives and dreams? With our co-hosts Joe Randazzo, Vicky Ray, and Keith Shago, they will uncover who are the real villains as we explore the classic cinema along with some modern greats and find the monster within us.
Hello, welcome to the Liquor License Podcast, and it's MMM week where we discuss monsters and madmen. And the two films that we're doing today are both from 1976, which is The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane, starring Jodie Foster and Martin Sheen, and Alice Sweet Alice, starring a Brooke Shields, whose acting career pretty much stayed the same as this. So before we get started, let's find out what we've been up to. And I guess we'll introduce who we have with us first. First, we have Joe Randazzo. Hello, Joe.
Hey, everyone.
And Vicky Ray.
Hi, everybody.
And David Cavallara.
Hey, ciao tutti. Hi, everyone.
And I'm your host, Keith Shago. Before we get started, let's find out what we've both been up to. Starting with you, Joe. What have you been up to since last time we spoke to you?
Well, it's only been a few days, so not all that much. I was, excuse me. There's something that came about this morning that I can't talk about yet until the film festival announces it. So I'm just gonna leave that, leave that until it's announced.
So we'll hear more about that in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, we'll know about that in a couple of weeks. They asked me not to say anything until they announce it. Besides that, watching the movies for this, and just the between the holidays and birthdays in the month of January, like my wallet took a giant hit.
No shit, buddy, I got you on that.
Yeah, one of my best friends, my nephew, both had birthdays in January. This was right after the holidays. I'm like, all right, I need to chill and stay at home and not do things for a little while and just kind of let everything build back up before I do anything. But I'm hoping to get more travel in this year and get out to a lot more film festivals and just I realized I haven't been out to LA now in 5 years. So hopefully I can get back out to LA again, get back out to, get around again. Besides that, just, not much, just kind of watching the movies for this. I've been continuing this weekly noir watch challenge where every week they give there's a let's say a category that I have to fulfill. And what was this week's? Oh, this week's was Diners in Film Noir. So I watched a movie called The Tattooed Stranger, which is about a woman, a waitress who's found dead in Central Park, and the cops kind of trying to figure out who killed her.
So it's not fiction.
It's what?
So it's not fiction.
What was really cool is seeing the Whitestone Bridge in the 1950s and seeing Brooklyn and Manhattan and Queens in the 1950s.
That's
really
retro,
cool to see that.
too.
30 years before I was born. So
Pretty cool.
It's always cool to see your hometown. And there were a lot of tropes in it that kind of reminded me of horror movies. Like in the course of the investigation, they were looking even going through cemeteries looking for clues. And I'm like, there's kind of a horror noir-ish feel to it, and I really enjoyed that. What was next week? Oh, next week is watch a noir directed by a woman. So that's I'll be doing that. That's basically it. Just kind of chilling, having a quiet time at home, and saving
wrong
up
with
for
that.
hopefully a spring where I can get out and get to travel more again, because that's something I miss. I miss LA. I really
Probably
need to get back.
well, they've been getting inundated with water. I'd say it was going to be warm and beautiful there, but they've really get a crap ton of storms.
March, April, it should be fine.
That's what I was saying. That hopefully it'll be better by then. Oh my God, they've been hammered the last month.
I'm not going to be able to really take a trip out there until until at least the spring anyway. So
very cool.
What about yourself, David? What have you been up to?
As I say, last week I've been basically to London for training one of my colleagues. That was Thursday last week, and then I went back to London Monday and Tuesday to the office. I love going to London. It's definitely one of my favorite cities. I haven't left ever Europe, unfortunately, but for the European area that I visited, London is definitely my favorite city because it's kind of multicultural, and I fell in love when I moved first in the UK.
It's a cool
city. Did you say small city?
I say it's a great city. I love London.
Great
I haven't
city.
been back in quite a few years. I'm really looking forward to trying to go back. God, every time I see this pandemic.
I love it. I've got good memories and bad memories. Don't get me wrong. But I'm planning within the next 6 months to move back to London again. Hopefully they're going to move me from the Cambridge office to the London office. Fingers crossed. I don't know. But we'll see. Then I've gone back to Kung Fu because I started Kung Fu 2.5 months ago. I'm loving it. And then, well, that's the kind of downside as well, because I'm kind of, the news of the war at the moment. It's a bit scary, but let's not get into that. I'm just trying to be positive and everything. Yesterday, I watched Encanto from the Disney movie. I don't know if you ever watched it. I quite liked it. I
still haven't watched that. I keep meaning to, and then I forget about it. I don't know why I keep forgetting.
I really, really liked it. It's all about basically family, and then obviously family drama and everything. And it kind of made me feel like I kind of miss my mum and my auntie, because basically I consider my mum and my auntie my two parents, if that makes sense. I always see my mom and my auntie as my two parents. And I miss them, and my cousin, also my other brother, because I've got one brother here and one brother is still in Italy. I kind of miss them also. But I still like the fact that I'm here and I'm working as hard as possible just to do a little bit of career and building my future, but still miss my mom. Moms are moms.
Yeah.
I always say that.
Well,
yeah, that's it for me.
That's a good thing. Always love your mom.
Yeah, always.
What about yourself, Vix? What have you been up to?
Actually, not a whole lot either. It's been kind of a rainy, cold week here in Texas. I've just about had enough of this shit. I'm ready for 104 degrees. I miss it. I don't care who hates it. I like it. But anyway, I watched the movie the other night ago. I kept falling asleep, but I finally finished watching it. It was called Love and Monsters. It was kind of cute, funny. The monsters were kind of fun. It was like the end of the world kind of thing. Still watching True Blood, and I'm into season 2. I'm trying not to binge watch it too fast this time around because it's really kind of fun the second time around because I really missed a lot of shit in that series the last time.
Yeah, it's always
pretty
like
racy. I love it. I don't know why. It's just good, clean fun as far as I'm concerned. And when I watched, Scott had on, I guess he must have kind of slept early this morning. He had on The Stepfather. Any of you ever watched that?
That's a good film,
Carrie
actually.
Quinn. Oh my God, that was so good. I didn't fall back asleep. I finished watching that. There's a second one too, and he's in it, so I might watch that again.
There's a third one.
Is there? Yeah, I saw the second one. I still watching The Last of Us. I want to binge watch it, but they're only giving me like an episode every week, and it's pissing me off.
I'm waiting on that one. I'm just gonna wait like I did with The Offer, where until like it's like just a couple weeks before, and then I watch them all over a week.
Patiently though for The Boys to come back. I really
I gotta watch the last season of The Boys. I've only seen the first 2.
And what else did we watch? We watched Wrong Turn, the 2003 Wrong Turn, not the 2020 Wrong Turn, because the 2003 is much better than the 2020. And I watched Adam's Rib with Spencer Tracy and Hepburn. But I love that movie. It was so good. Hadn't seen it in a long time. But other than that, just trying to recover from the holiday still, financially and otherwise. So.
I'm actually waiting to check out. I've seen it before, but it's been a long time. I have the Spencer Tracy, Ingrid Bergman, Jekyll and Hyde, and the last couple of weeks I've been watching a lot of Ingrid Bergman movies.
I've always loved her.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of Hitchcock movies since the new year, and she's
God, I wish you were around when we were doing Alfred Hitchcock.
I know. Yeah, you guys did that before I was on the podcast, but
Yeah.
I watched Spellbound, Notorious. I randomly watched Casablanca one night because I was on Mark Krawcheck's podcast towards the beginning of the year, and he it's called The Spoiler Room. If anybody wants to check it out.
Yeah, I just subscribed to it because it's some pretty good stuff on there.
I've been on there twice. I was on 3 times. I was on there when he did Sleepaway Camp. I was on there when he did The Burning, and then I was on there at the beginning of the month where we did Murder on the Orient Express, and I just kind of watched inadvertently watched a lot of Ingrid Bergman, and then one night I was like, you know what, let me just rewatch Casablanca because I'll watch that like once every year or so, and I was like, I haven't seen it in about a year, and then I found out it's playing in the theater in March, so I'm going to go see it on the big screen in March, and then I was just like, I got the Ingrid Bergman, Spencer Tracy, Jekyll and Hyde, and I haven't seen that in forever. So let me give that another shot. I remember not liking it when I saw it as a teenager, and I never watched it again. But it's on this 4-movie box set from Turner Classic Movies of horror movies. I'm like, let me just give it another shot. It's right there.
Right.
Let me just throw it on.
I still got to watch Scarface, the old one. I've never seen that one. Never seen
Oh, I
it.
can't wait to get your thoughts on it next month then. That's going to be fun.
I'm sure I'll love it.
I love both versions. They're two very different movies.
They're not the same. I already figured that much out just by I've seen the other Scarface, the new one, 1,000 times since college. And not 1,000, but you know what I mean. And I've never seen the older version. I've just never got down to sit down and watch it. And I know they're 2 totally separate films. So.
I mean, there's aspects of it that are very similar, but yeah, to the end. I'm gonna watch them like really close together, and then at the end, when Keith asks which one we prefer, I'll figure it out then, because like
that's gonna be a toss up. That'll be hard, probably.
It's kind of hard when it's 2 movies that are so different
and so good. Yeah.
Hmm.
What about yourself, Keith?
Well, I spent most of my week at the police station this week.
What'd you do now? Were you hooking again?
Yeah, wish, gosh, I'm too old for that shit.
Why the police station?
No, because basically what's happening is I have a stalker that's basically I've been getting gifts and stuff, and I haven't thought anything much of it. But now they've been hand delivering stuff to my home and to my work, and they don't know who it is.
Gosh.
So
I
basically,
thought when we talked, I thought we knew who that was.
no, we don't actually. So so basically I had to like take my phone in, they made a copy of my phone, had to go through my emails and everything like that. But apparently they can't. So basically my stalker's out there. I'm looking for a new car. No, I'm kidding.
I was gonna say, for a nominal fee, I'll get him to date you.
But no, I mean the thing is, I mean the reason why is only because they're I mean I don't know where they got my home address from, but now they got my work address, and my boss
card in the internet, baby.
Well, they wouldn't have my work address though. That's the thing. So, but anyway,
that means that they are definitely stalking you, hon. Be careful.
Yeah. Well, the police said they can't do anything until he physically attacks me. So,
that sounds about right.
Yeah, but the good thing, I mean,
carry.
Yeah.
Open carry.
And then but I mean the thing is the cards and stuff are getting a bit threatening now. So it's like, okay.
Threatening.
Well, let's just sit there and say they sound like Yvonne Elliman. If I can't have you, I don't want nobody, baby.
No.
Oh. So yeah.
What is it with people?
I don't know. I mean, God, I mean, I'm sure they could find someone a bit more interesting than me. But anyway, it is what it is. I still anyway, they don't know who it is. So now what I got to do is anytime I get anything, I have to get them to come by and pick it up. So went and filed the report, had to go back, and they got some more stuff on Thursday, got some stuff today, so I had to drop it off at the police station. So yeah, it's odd. So, but I mean, you know, when you're as pretty and gorgeous
scary,
as I,
buddy.
yeah.
Shame.
And outside of that, I started watching this BBC series called Happy Valley, which is fucking fantastic.
Really?
Excellent.
Is
Really
it a
good.
Redbox?
It's on BBC here, so it's probably on BBC America.
I haven't seen anything on that.
Yeah, it's called Happy Valley. It's won all awards. It's got Sarah Lancaster, who also did the Julia TV series. She's Julia Childs in that TV series.
Oh, her. She's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's really good. I mean, this is the third season it's playing here, so basically I haven't seen anyone. So everyone's been saying to watch them, so I started watching it. So I'm in the middle of season 2 at the moment. They're only like 6 episodes per season, so it's pretty easy to get through. And then I started watching this thing on Netflix called Physique 100. It's this Korean show, Physique 100. So they take all the greatest bodies in Korea. And they're all from all types. You know, there's modeling, actors, bodybuilders, Kwandu, and basically there's only 100 of them, and there's only gonna be one winner. And basically, I mean, the first challenge is that they have to hang from this bar, like up in the air over this water, and just hang there. And then most of them dropped within 10 seconds. Like the big bodybuilders dropped. So it's quite interesting. Now they're going one-on-one against each other, and by the end of it, there'll only be one winner.
Sounds like Special Ops over here. They got like a Special Ops show. I don't know if that's the name for the celebrities, and it's like Navy SEAL boot camp. I keep meaning to check it out. I just never turned it on, but it looks pretty brutal.
This one's quite good because, I mean, they're not celebrities or anything like that. It's not. There's no drama either. You know, like sometimes you get like, you know, you get these people from like Big Brother and X on the Beach
or
and
the
shit like that,
or something.
Yeah, and they're all fighting with each other because they're just, you know, they're just reality TV stars. So it's quite interesting. That's on Netflix. So I've been watching that, and I did watch all The Circle, which that's probably
my
9
daughter
hours.
loves it.
Well, it's probably 9 hours of my life.
It was an interesting kind of. I don't like reality shows, but it was kind of a cool.
I like the first season. I think the problem is that with these reality programs, these reality game shows, that sit there and say is that the first season's always the best. By the second and third season, they all know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I'm sure, you know, if our stalkers out there, please don't hate me. But what I'm finding difficult is like, oh, there's so many gay people on TV, but why is it always the worst gays that got on TV? The ones who scream the loudest, the ones who are the most effeminate. I can't. It's like, oh my god, if one more gay screams, it's like I can't deal with it. It's like if someone, you know, got all these gays on TV, it's great. Like, yeah, but all these stereotype gays. It's like all stereotype gays.
You are so right about that. I mean, especially right now, they do stereotype the gays. Yeah, and I don't know why they do that.
And every time there's a lesbian on there, she's drinking herbal tea and she's wearing earth shoes. I just don't understand.
You know, or they're really butch or something like that.
Yeah, precisely. There's never like a.
There's no happy medium.
Yeah, I don't understand. It's like everyone's happy about this. It's like, are they? It's like everyone just looks like a reject from RuPaul's Drag Race. I just can't deal with it. But
that just reminded me of. Have you guys ever seen? There was a roast to James Franco. Jesus Christ, Jess Franco and James Franco are completely different people. Right. There was a roast to James Franco, and Bill Hader came out with gray hair and a tracksuit and called himself the president of Hollywood. And I think Aziz Ansari was on the dais, so he was making fun of Aziz Ansari, and he was like, "It's amazing to he was playing a character called the president of Hollywood. It's amazing to me, you've done all this work and you've never done any of the stereotypical stuff, but you would have made so much more money if you did." that just reminded me of.
That's funny, but he's right though. They stereotype everybody.
You do the stereotypical stuff. That's how you make the money.
I know. I don't know. I just feel it just makes me feel, I don't know, antisocial for my own people. I can't connect. I can't connect with
Yeah,
them
but that,
whatsoever.
unfortunately, that's what makes TV. It's kind of like when you have people arguing
Rating.
or stereotypes or whatever, people are more interested into that. When it's a bit more serious, when there's real analysis of society and how it really works, it's kind of like, it's boring. For me, it's completely the opposite. Like even when I lived in Watford, there was a period when I watched 3 seasons of Big Brother because I lived with my ex and he used to love, watching Big Brother. I used to hate the idea of watching Big Brother. So it was like, okay, let's get into it. It's very psychological. I was like, okay, it's a social experiment. Let's watch it. All I would say is just random people arguing. And I was like, this is exactly why I didn't want to watch it, because it's silly. It doesn't give me anything. Seeing people argue, I don't get anything. And then all these stereotypes, and it's just not for me. So I can't stand reality TV. Not for me.
Well, if I want to, I don't know. If I want to see people arguing, I'll just go home for Thanksgiving.
Oh shit! Oh shit, man!
Yeah.
I hate the way Italian Americans are portrayed in a lot of movies and TV
Oh hell,
shows. Like,
yeah! Don't even get
look at the Jersey Shore. Look at the Jersey Shore. I'm like, I don't want that. Like,
that
I don't
is
want
so
that.
embarrassing. I'm sorry. I don't know if you're a fan, but Jersey Shore is embarrassing. To me, it was.
But you three do know, being Italian American, that's the reason why I got you on the show, because we know stereotypes before.
Oh, so Joe, you're Italian American?
Yeah. Vicky Stuckey.
I'm second generation. My parents came over from Italy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Second generation off the olive oil boat.
Can I ask from where? I'm just curious.
Actually Sicilian. They were from.
Sicily. Okay.
They were from Carini. So.
I don't know the city, but yeah.
A lot of my family.
Just curious.
We still got family in Palermo.
Oh, Palermo. Okay, I've never been to Sicily, so I'm not entirely sure.
The closest big city was Palermo.
Okay, yeah.
I love Italy.
Capital, yeah.
I've never seen so many people smoke so many cigarettes in my entire life when I went to Italy.
It's a very
I have never seen. Everybody's got to have lung cancer in Italy. Seriously.
Yeah.
I think it's why I have 4 or 5 double shot espressos a day. Yeah, I think that's part of the.
Well, they look at you like you're nuts. It's just like, well, these are really strong. Well, that's when I was in Turkey. I asked for double espressos. They go, this is really strong. And I go, your point is what, sir? Just want it.
It's fine. I'm Italian.
Yeah.
No, but you should have seen me, my ex, a lot of friends, Italian friends I have here, when we first came to the UK, seeing the sizes of the classic, like, American coffee or watered down coffee, we look at that as like, what is that? Because we normally have espresso or like a macchiato,
little itty bitty
or a
cups
cappuccino.
of the little itty bitty spoons.
Yes, exactly. When you have the big cup, it's so weird. I mean, I'm used to it now. But then at the very beginning, was like, that's weird.
I like my caffeine concentrated. I want as much bang for my buck as possible. I don't need all the water in it. I drink enough water as it is. I drink 64 to 100 ounces of water a day. So I don't need water in my coffee. I just want the caffeine part.
I tell you one thing though, when I was in Italy, I was like Sheriff Bing 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 Ricochet Rabbit, because I love coffee. Wherever I went in Rome or Naples, wherever I drank coffee. I mean, any corner of the globe I have been to, I will drink their coffee to see if it is strong enough. But the Italians definitely have the market cornered, even over Turkey. So.
Oh, my mother, if we had company show up at 8 p.m., she is making some espresso.
That's any time of the day, even just
your
an hour
mom was a
good
woman.
We get the little cups, a little bit of sugar, and we drink espresso.
Spoons, gotta have the little spoons.
Well, you have
the little
traditional
spoons.
way.
Whoever showed up was proper enough to bring a white box with strings on it, and you open it up, and there was a bunch of cookies and biscuits and whatever.
The Italian cookies, like the little round white ones and the chocolate ones.
Those and also the 7-layer rainbow cookies, which
and the
I
biscotti,
love.
Biscotti, chocolate fucking biscotti, man.
Kind of lonely.
The lemon cookies that never went bad, so somebody would bring us a pack of lemon cookies in one of those, and we'd
you guys
have
are making me hungry. I'm gonna have to start shopping for this shit on Amazon when we're done.
I promise, if you like Italian biscotti, we have the biggest most famous brand that we have is Mulino Bianco. It's like a very famous brand. It does so many types of biscuits. you have no idea. You just
I
go to
sent my
them and then you
mother
look
an
at them. They're very
assortment.
simple, but they I used to love
I
them.
bought
Now
my
I'm
mother an
celiac. I can't
assortment
have
for
them.
Christmas.
But oh
Nice.
my god, I used to love
It
them.
cost a lot to ship them, but I sent it to my mom. She loves
Yeah, but once in a while, why not?
The thing whenever I go back to New York, my brother lives in a very Italian neighborhood, so I hit up all the Italian bakeries, and
Oh yeah.
man,
Cannoli.
I
Oh,
love
that's proper
cannoli.
Siciliano. Yeah.
Keith, this is what happens if you tell 3 people they're Italian. I'm sorry.
we end up
Talking about
hijacking
food.
the podcast and talking about
Yeah, but
talking
the
about
real
espresso
reason,
pastrami.
the real reason we talk about food is because when we are abroad, we miss the food stuff that we have from our country. That's why, like the stuff that I found traditional Italian stuff,
it's
funny,
but
it's
isn't
like six times the price.
But isn't either food or illegal crime, isn't it? I mean, that's what you.
That's what we're known for.
Yeah, you've been watching too much of The Sopranos.
I've seen The Godfather. I know.
Take the gun, leave the cannoli. Yeah.
Pizza, and the mafia, which does not exist.
I would kind of.
Black hand
it does exist.
though.
Yeah, it does exist. Unfortunately,
I don't know. When I went
certain parts,
to Sicily, I was walking down the street and the car next to me got his window shot out.
Probably just another day in the life, you know.
Ma che cosa mafia?
But I have to sit there and say that because I know the trick when you go to Italy. What you do is if you do not make sure they don't put you in the tourist place, make sure they sit you in behind where the locals sit. That's where the best time is.
I agree. And everywhere you travel, to be honest, is always like it's better.
Yeah. Well, when I was in Sicily, we basically partied with the person who does the dubbing for Robert De Niro. So that was quite fun.
Oh.
I just realized I haven't been to Italy since 1994. It's been 29 years since the last time I've been in Italy.
About 4 years.
Wow.
For me.
It's a long time.
Now
Food is cheaper.
Now they're very embroiled into the EU now, so it's probably more EU friendly than it was in '94. So.
I thought they were non-EU friendly. I thought they had a conservative prime minister now.
No, they're still EU. They're part of the
Yeah,
EU.
they are
Still
still,
EU?
but the current prime minister is a bit. Well, let's not get into politics.
No,
Right?
I don't.
Let's
Yeah,
not,
we
because
love
I've
it.
Mussolini. He was weak. He was weak.
Oh,
He was
gosh.
weak.
yeah, that's what I was trying to avoid getting into. Is her views on Mussolini are not exactly.
Mussolini.
Historical figure. Lest we forget, we must. With history, just can't erase it. That's all.
No, we have to remember always. I agree.
We have to remember always.
History exists to remember and to learn from the mistakes of the
That's
past.
exactly
Otherwise, what's
right.
the point? Yeah.
Well, I mean, Mussolini was okay. I mean, luckily,
Oh,
Hitler.
gosh.
He had
Oh my
Hitler
God! I hope my mother
He-
doesn't listen to this, bro.
I think he was okay.
Oh my God.
But I think that he was lucky enough to
No.
exist in the time with Hitler, so kind of Hitler took everything. He didn't have to stand in the shadows.
Well, Hitler admired him though. He was like a fanboy, wasn't he? I
Well, it was
believe.
like him and Franco, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They were
Franco was
fanboys
the
of
other
Mussolini.
Yeah.
So let's just say that from an Italian perspective, unless you're one of those weird, super extremist weird people, that unfortunately they're still out there like, oh, back in the days, Mussolini was a great figure. And we're like, You know, normally the average is in
Said none of my relatives, bless their hearts and souls,
I
wherever
was
they
gonna
are.
say you could tell, like, the people listening couldn't tell because they can't see Keith's face when he started that. It was clear he was going towards a joke, and we all cut him off. So,
Oh, I'm sorry.
people
I'm
listening
getting
Well,
too
no.
serious.
might not have
Well,
heard
that's
whatever
the whole
joke he-
point, Joe. He's trying to get us going. We got to give him something, you know?
I tell you, to be honest, though, I think the weirdest thing I've ever experienced in Europe is I went to Austria to visit my friend Petra, and Petra goes, you won't believe this. She goes, because she lives in Dornbirn, and she goes, let's go outside because I want to show you like a really small village out in the Black Forest. So we get it. So we
Oh,
get
I
in a
would love to
car
see
and we go to this small village, and basically there's these Nazi signs and everything, and they were celebrating
my
Hitler's
God.
birthday.
Oh, man.
Oh,
They're all
God,
over the
no.
place. Them freaks
Yeah.
are still everywhere.
She goes,
Unfortunately-
she goes, look, she goes, when we arrived, it's like, you know, all these little SWAT sticker flags and everything like this, and everyone's like, singing or
I have
whatever.
such a hard time. Well, I would have really had a hard time. Like,
And
keeping
Petra goes,
myself.
whatever you do, Petra goes, whatever you do, don't open your mouth because they don't like Americans. It's like, okay.
That would have just,
Someday-
yeah,
some-
whatever. I would
someday
have so.
I need to take all the old stories that my mom and my dad and my uncles told me about growing up in Italy under Mussolini. And just because like these are stories from people who were like, on the ground,
There.
just kind of put something together with it. Because there were a lot of stories that could, if I could figure out the brain goo that's up here and morph them into something concise, I would love to write something about their
cool.
experiences as they passed them down to me. And actually, that reminds me, I saw Two Women by Vittorio De Sica earlier this year, which was Sophia Loren.
She was related to Mussolini.
I don't know if she was related or not.
I believe she was related to him. I believe so.
She played a woman who was trying to get away from all the bombings in Rome and taking her daughter to like the rural areas of Italy in the hopes that they're not getting bombed as frequently. So that was another really great one I saw this year.
Wow, that's interesting.
I've watched a lot of movies from very early into the year.
I know you've been on a roll, man.
Well, I mean, when you're trying to stay home and save money, okay, well, I'll watch a movie. I'll watch another movie.
Okay, Mussolini. Okay, in 1962, Maria, I cannot say this, and I have to tell you, Scalone, the younger sister of Sophia Loren, had two daughters. She was apparently married to the brother of Mussolini.
Okay, so they were like second.
Younger sister Anna Maria, seen here with Sophia, became the wife of Romano Mussolini, the youngest. I don't know. The families are related through marriage anyway. I knew it was somehow. My mother told me about that a long time ago.
I always feel sorry for like the third and fourth cousin.
Why?
because that's what they say. You're a third or fourth cousin. That's what they're saying. You're a third or fourth cousin of like Hitler, and your last name is Hitler. Like there's nothing you can do. It's like, or
does anybody even have that name though? Is there anybody named Hitler, or does everybody change their name?
I think they all changed their names. I don't think anybody wanted to be associated with that.
No, of course not.
Of course, you probably got one stupid family member who decided to just change like a letter, so he's Histler.
Histler, yeah.
No. I'll just change the Z. No one will know. There's always one in every family.
There is.
He also killed the Charlie Chaplin mustache, and that's never been able to come back.
Oh my God! You can't even kid around with that shit because
do you remember when Michael Jordan briefly had it for like a couple of Hanes commercials?
No,
he couldn't bring it back. If you look it up, Michael Jordan for a little while had like the little Hitler mustache.
Hitler thingy going on.
He could make that work. He was beloved at the time.
Well, even Prince Harry couldn't bring the outfit back. Open-minded Harry. Before he married Meghan.
Y'all need to come back and then reclaim them two and get them the hell out of there.
No. We can leave the mustaches in the past. I don't like mustaches.
You can keep Harry and Meghan. They're yours.
No. Oh my God! I cannot. She's got to go.
This is the price you pay for dumping all that tea into the Boston Harbor. Pay back a bit.
The Queen's revenge.
Precisely. And speaking about payback, this brings us to The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane, which is a 1976 cross-genre film directed by Nicolas Gessner and starring Jodie Foster, Martin Sheen, Alexis Smith, Mort Shuman, and Scott Jacoby. It was a co-production of Canada and France and written by Laird Koenig, based on his 1974 novel of the same title. The plot focuses on a 13-year-old Rynn Jacobs, a child whose absent father and secretive behavior prod the suspicions of a conservative small-town Maine neighbor. The adaptation originally intended as a play was filmed in Quebec on a small budget. Production later became the subject of controversy over reports that Foster had conflicts with producers over the filming and inclusion of a nude scene, but a 24-year-old body double, Foster's sister, was used. After screening at the 1976 Cannes Film Festival, a court challenge was launched regarding distribution, and a general release followed in 1977. Initially released to mixed reviews, with some critics finding the murder mystery plot weak, but Jodie Foster's performance more meticulous. The film won 2 Saturn Awards, including Best Horror Film and Best Actress for Foster. It subsequently attained cult status, and later critics positively reviewing the screenplay. Writers and academics have interpreted it as a statement on children's rights, and various placed it in the thriller, horror, mystery, or other genres. What we're going to do is cut to the trailer of The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane, and be right back.
They called her the little girl who lives down the lane. All alone in that big house. Who was she? And what was her secret? A lot of people wondered. Like Mario, the local comedian.
Somebody's out there.
Officer Miglioretti, the local cop.
I don't believe what you've been telling me about your father.
You're a very pretty girl, you know that? Pretty eyes.
Frank Hallett, the local creep. And nasty Mrs. Hallett, the local gossip.
Mrs. Hallett, I'm warning you!
I want to know what's been happening here in this house. I want to know what happened here today!
I think I should warn you that the police are watching our house right this very minute, Mr. Hallett.
Aren't you scared?
Of what?
Of being alone. No one will know about us.
I never knew how much I needed you.
Now listen to me, young lady. I know you're up to something.
Go in that study, Mrs. Hallett, and I tell my father about your son. I even had to ask him why the police don't do anything about it.
Why should they do anything?
When your son gives candy to pretty little girls.
Academy Award nominee Jodie Foster, Martin Sheen, Alexis Smith.
Get out of here!
The little girl who lives down the lane.
Hello, welcome back to the Liquor License Podcast. We're discussing The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane from 1974. And Joe, what are your thoughts on The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane?
Well, I had only seen this movie for the first time last year when it played on The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs. So I'm kind of new to this. I remember hearing about it and it being one of those, one of those infamous movies, like he said in the intro, that it was controversial because of a nude scene. And Joe Bob even explained on there, on the episode, it's her older sister who's in her 20s, and they shoot her from behind. So I'm guessing she probably looked like profile-wise looks the same.
It did, but you could tell when she gets into bed, you could see that it wasn't Jodie Foster just for that brief second, if you're paying attention.
But I mean, it's as far as just the film itself, I think it's actually a tremendous film.
Right.
I think it's very, very well made. Jodie Foster is able to carry a movie when she's 13 years old.
Oh shit, I know.
Which is just amazing. And this
kind
is
of a glimpse of things to come,
I mean, we're recording this on a week where the Razzies just got in trouble for nominating a child actor for Worst Actress for the remake of Firestarter. But this movie shows that like an actress who is, I heard it sucked. I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
everybody I know that's seen the new Firestarter says it's terrible. So I don't know. Maybe eventually I'll check it out because it'll be like, what the fuck? Why not?
Let's just say it makes Drew Barrymore's version look like a masterpiece. Let's put it.
And I was never crazy about that one either. I don't know.
She had backlighting. She had backlighting and a little wind blow behind her hair every time she set it afire.
I mean, you guys know the last couple of years I've been doing these horror movie watch list challenges around Halloween. maybe something will call for me watching that because it'll fall under some category.
Oh, someday it'll be rainy or it'll be snowing and cold out, and you'll just say, "Fuck it, why not?" You'll watch it. I know you.
I mean, if you see my DVD and Blu-ray collection, I will never have the problem where it's like, oh, I gotta watch it. I gotta watch this movie. Maybe we'll cover it on Make Remake, and that'll be my reason to have to watch it. But yeah, Firestarter aside, The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane is just a fantastic example of how a child actor could lead a movie and actually do it successfully and do it really well. I don't know how old Scott Jacoby was for this. He was super young too.
He had to be about 17 or 18, don't you think?
He might have been a little older.
A little older.
But
yeah, I gotta look that up. That's gonna bug me.
Because he was doing a lot around this time. I don't know if he was a teenager. He was if he wasn't a teenager, he was in his early 20s. And the two of them are really good together.
They were fantastic together.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling Vicky to check, and I'll tell all you guys to check it out if you can get your hands on it. If you want to see him in a horror movie where he's the lead, watch Bad Ronald.
Oh my God, I forgot. I've got to rent it. I've got
1974 made-for-TV movie where he's very similar to this. He's in a different way though. He plays a young boy who's being bullied. He accidentally kills a girl that's bullying him. His mom hides him out behind the walls, and then his mom dies, leaving him basically on his own. So there's some aspects of it that are similar, but that one's more of a straight horror movie, where this one's more of a thriller. Martin Sheen is just
made me want to take a shower. That's how I
so creepy. He's so creepy in this.
He's sick creepy. It's almost hard to watch him in this role because he's so offensive as a human being, you know?
You can see it right in the beginning, right? The first time he walks into that house, you could see like the weird perversions that he's got are kind of already ruminating in his head, and it comes out. His dialogue, the way he phrases everything, is just dripping with it. And I wonder sometimes how much of that was the writing versus the performance, because both are phenomenal. Like everything he says could be construed as normal, or I guess it would be performance then, because it rides that line of being something that's technically not wrong to say in a lot of cases, but his cadence in it is just absolutely sleazy.
It is. I mean, it made you feel dirty almost watching it in a voyeuristic sense. You know, it really, really did. And it almost had a Black Christmas kind of feeling to it. Didn't you think? The film, I don't know what was the 16 millimeter, obviously, I don't believe. But
I think this might have been 35.
But 35. It had that feeling about it. Even if you watch the cleaned up version, don't you enjoy your films like those ones particular?
Well, the films are around the same time period anyway. I mean, what Black Christmas is what, 76?
Black Christmas was 2 years before this.
Black 2 years before.
This was 76. Well, this might have been filmed in 74 or 75. This came out in 76. Black Christmas came out in 74.
Well, they all got that gritty look to them, like Rosemary's Baby, Texas Chainsaw. And this wasn't the only murderous children shows that were coming out right about then.
Oh, there were a lot. We covered the children on this a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There was all kinds of crap coming out, like children were, murderous children, I guess.
I don't know if I'd call this really a murderous children movie, though, because she's not really like...
But she's all in towards the end, though, because you skip that whole 3 minutes of her, watching, I hate to spoil it.
Well, yeah, but the thing is I mean, this is what's quite interesting because about this film.
It doesn't seem to bother her having dead people in the house. It would bother me.
But the thing is, she's not killing people because of the joy of it. She's killing people to save to save herself. Mm-hmm. I mean, the thing is, the question basically is that because does a child need social services if they're intelligent enough and they have the financial capability to support themselves? And by law they don't, but obviously she's intelligent She can budget. She knows how to take care of herself. So in fact, she doesn't really need an adult figure there anyway. But you have all these adults coming into her life that are like interfering with her, really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, also the only person she intentionally kills is Martin Sheen.
Right. Mrs. Hallett was just an extra happy thing to happen.
Alexis Smith, she knocked the thing over herself when she was
Right.
coming up out of the cellar.
She killed her mother. She killed her mother because her father. But she was not aware that that's what was going to happen.
Like,
right.
Yeah. All her father told her is put some of this in your mother's tea, and she didn't know what it was. And she said later that she, after, and she's apparently smart enough to break down what she put in the tea,
right,
down to its elements to figure out what it was. So the only person she intentionally murders is Martin Sheen. And that,
but
and
didn't you love the dialogue though between her and Mrs. Hallett, and the dialogue between her and Martin was like boom, boom, boom. I mean, this is a 13-year-old girl actress. Like, holy shit.
You know what it reminded me of? It was a movie you guys suggested to me, The Bad Seed.
Oh God, I love that movie.
It reminded me of the scenes between the little girl and the groundskeeper in The Bad Seed, where they were saying things that weren't necessarily threatening, but again, the cadence of what was being said was very clear. And that's what this one reminded me of.
I mean, if you look at Mrs. Hallett anyway, Alexis Smith does a fantastic job.
Yes, she does.
I love Alexis Smith in this, she went from being like the first movie I think I saw her in was it was Bogart movie, Conflict, where she was the young woman that Bogart became obsessed with to the point where he killed his wife thinking he could be with Alexis Smith. Which is a very good movie, by the way. I really like Conflict. It's Bogart, Sidney Greenstreet, Alexis Smith, really fucking awesome 40s noir. But yeah, she's fantastic in this too. And she comes off right from the very beginning. She's just such an asshole that you just want to see her.
Well, she does that thing that landlords are not supposed to do. It's like barge in.
Yeah.
Say, this is my house. Like, no, I'm renting this from you.
Everybody barges into her house.
Here,
I was getting heated up in that moment as well. It's kind of like, because in the UK it's very similar. The landlords have a lot of power. So you're kind of like, well, wait, okay, this is your house, but I'm actually paying you money to stay here. So I have certain rights. So this is your place, but I've got certain rights because I'm giving you money for staying here. So you can't just come here and then just do this and do that. Oh, the table was supposed to be here. Well, I don't care. I live here now.
Yeah, I don't care where you think the table needs to be.
It's very uncomfortable. I think it was great to be very uncomfortable. She was a proper, what's the term these days? They use Karen, right?
Scott Jacoby is 66 now. So how old would that have made him?
He's 6.
Yeah, he was a teenager at this time. Right.
Yeah, he was a teenager.
But yeah, she's definitely got Karen energy. We got 2 shitty landlords in these movies.
Basically. But everybody comes in her. That's true, and she's also kind of a bigot because Mrs. Hallett came in. She made that statement, drinking that thick, sweet wine that you people use in your religious rituals. So there was some. There was all kinds of shitty verbiage.
Well, yeah, she had a problem. Obviously, she had a problem with the Italians.
Yeah, she didn't like the Italians.
The wops moving into her neighborhood.
Yeah.
So.
She was saying something.
But the thing is like and it's quite interesting as well because around 1976, and if you look at things from the 60s and the 70s around the Maine and New England states, I mean, what was very popular at that time was Shirley Jackson. All her stuff's about this small town, small-mindedness, and
that's a good analogy too.
Yeah, well, Peyton Place. Well, it got Peyton Place. Peyton Place takes place in that same area as well.
Right.
Maine, New England states, where it's all very waspy. You got your white Anglo-Saxon Protestants running around, and
true.
And they all. And I mean, it's a bit like in Boston. I mean, it's like you go to Boston and you throw a rock, and obviously everyone claims they, they were on the Mayflower.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many, I don't know how many people they think were on this fucking Mayflower, but apparently everyone in Boston thinks they got a relative off. It's a bit like everyone thinks they got American Indian blood in them.
Was this a screenplay? Was this a play originally and it was made into a novel to make the movie?
They were going to turn it into a play, but then they decided to turn it into a movie instead. So
yeah. Well, when I was watching The Last Drive-In, Joe Bob Briggs goes into why apparently it would have been too taxing on a teenage girl to have to do this performance over and over again and miss school and all that stuff. So you can't really have like underage people that you have that heavy roles on Broadway because they still have to do schooling and all that. And they also decided that having a woman who was of age,
right,
playing younger would have been unrealistic, would have been too unrealistic in this case. So yeah, it totally makes sense why they would do a movie instead. And I'm glad they did, because if it was a play, who knows if it would still be around.
Right.
It would still be getting revivals and everything. But
there's some nuances in here as well. I mean, the thing is that, I mean, Jodie Foster or Rynn's mom is supposed to be abusive. And that's the reason why they keep talking about her chipped tooth all the time, because obviously it was her mother that knocked out her tooth.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
They used Chopin, like, was it Frederic Chopin's music was very important to the musical score, obviously, because it's really what she had playing throughout the whole.
Well, it shows. I mean, I think that was used to show someone who has intelligence and someone who's very cultured.
What was the album she had? Remember the albums Learn How to Speak Languages back then? What album was that? Hebrew. She was trying to speak Hebrew. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is this is a you want to call her a little girl because she is technically 13, but in some ways she comes off as a young woman because she's so well cultured and well versed. She's the smartest person in this movie.
Well, she pretty much bests all the adults.
Well, yeah, she's easily but she's more cultured, more sophisticated, more educated than these people who are 20, 30, 40 years older than her.
And she's worldly as well.
Yeah, a lot more worldly too.
She can, I mean, obviously she can cook a well-balanced meal as well. She knows exactly how to, to support her stuff in the kitchen. She keeps the house clean. I mean, I'm talking about, this is someone who's very, very, put together.
Well, her and her father planned this. It was a systematic plan. Okay, this is where did he die naturally?
He committed suicide.
Okay, so why did she say, this is the part I just couldn't find the answer. What happened to his body? Was he in the cellar too, or she said he'd never be found?
No, he wandered off into the ocean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was apparently very sick, knew his death was imminent.
Yeah, right.
Left her a lot of money, made sure she was set up in this house, and the lease was for 3 years. So by the time the lease expired, she'd be 17. He knew he was going to go any day now anyway. He wanted to go out on his own terms. I still, with a young child like that, even knowing that she could take care of herself, I don't know that I'd still be able to.
That would be hard on me as a
leave
parent.
her like that. He set her up with what to do with mom if your abusive mother shows up.
With the red nails, her shit hooks.
Yeah. Bust out the almond cookies and the
arsenic.
The arsenic.
No, wait, it was cyanide. It was potassium.
Oh, cyanide, yeah. Oh man. Luckily she never tried it herself.
In the book it says Rynn kills Mrs. Hallett by putting a gas pipe in the basement to suffocate her. Obviously, we could have been really worse in this movie than we were. So
I mean, then you would have gone, completely into the bad seed territory.
Yeah.
This kind of rides the line perfectly because the only person she kills because he is an adult who's trying to molest her.
Right.
That's.
And he had 2 kids, and he looked perfectly normal, but he had to pick her out and bug her to where remember it was a Halloween when he comes over and she cuts up that birthday cake and says, "Here, trick or treat yourself, get the hell out," basically. But then he comes back. I mean, what? But during
the part where she's giving him the cake, he gives her a pat on the ass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talk about being familiar. Golly.
I mean, what's quite interesting is the next movies that Martin Sheen and Jodie Foster would do would be Badlands, which we're covering next month, and of course Taxi Driver.
Right,
Yeah.
which came out the following year.
I mean, so you look at what these two actors. I mean, Martin Sheen was just starting out at this time. I mean, he wasn't a huge actor yet.
He
Not
wanted
yet.
to play the part of Mario. I just can't picture that. I'm glad that it wasn't cast that way.
Yeah, that would have been kind of weird.
That would have been really woo.
You know, especially when they get.
Woo.
Yeah, and Martin Sheen, I guess he blew up. I guess after Apocalypse Now, I guess that would be the big one that blew him up. So yeah, Martin Sheen was a couple years away from becoming, you know, the megastar that he would become.
But he plays sleazy quite well, though. I mean, Badlands. I mean, when we cover Badlands with Sissy Spacek next month.
I don't think I've seen Badlands yet.
I bought the Criterion of it so I could watch it. So
it's based on the true story of Richard Speckler, the serial killer, isn't it? So
I didn't know that. Okay, well, I'm looking forward to that.
I didn't know that either, but I'll have to look up the serial killer now.
Yeah, well, it's serial killer month. I think next month. So
I just love serial killers.
Oh yeah, because M is the other movie, right?
And which is based on that child, a pedophile killer, wasn't it? The
which one?
In Germany, I can't remember the guy.
I've not seen that either. So I'm
kind of Square Killer, I think.
Yeah.
Because they made another movie about him in the 70s, called The Tenderness of the Wolves.
Yeah.
And that one was a lot more explicit than this one was.
Yeah.
See, I've not seen these, so I'm kind of excited to see something I haven't seen before.
Well, it's got Peter Lorre.
You've never seen that
This is Peter Lorre's first film, so.
Oh, that's right. It's a 1930s film, isn't it?
Yeah.
Peter Lorre was such a
this is the first time I'm covering Fritz Lang with you guys.
I love Peter Lorre movies, period. And this one I've never seen, so this is going to be fun for me. I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait for it either. It's been a long time since I've seen M, and I've never seen Badlands, so that'll both be they'll both be. Oh my god, I the 3 of the 4 movies that we're covering next month, I love 3 of them. The 3 that I've seen. So this is going to be a fun month next month.
Yeah.
But yeah, what got us off track here?
No, we're talking about as Martin Sheen and Jodie Foster, what they would go on to in the following year. It's just like, it's amazing when you think about it.
Well, didn't they want to release this or whatever because do it that year, or wasn't there a problem?
Well, the thing about Jodie Foster, you need to remember, is that Jodie Foster is just coming off of doing Disney film.
Well, she had like 50 to 60 productions behind her before she took this on.
She already worked with Martin Scorsese before this, but like Taxi Driver's the big one. But she was in Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. Like a couple years before this.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore.
He's at 13 years old, already working with like one of the greatest directors that ever lived. Well, not at that. I mean, Martin Scorsese at that point wasn't, the Martin Scorsese that everybody thinks of as the master filmmaker. But I mean, he was on his way there. He already had Mean Streets under his belt. So yeah, she's already working with master directors at this age.
Yeah.
You already see that little spark in her at that age.
Yeah.
She was destined for great things. She really was.
And it was
the little lesbian who could.
That's right.
14 years later, I think she finally won an Oscar. Or did she win an Oscar for Silence of the Lambs?
She got something earlier.
She won for Silence of the Lambs, and she won for, I think, The Accused first. She's won 2.
She got one for The Accused.
Oh, she won. Okay.
I thought she got one younger than that, though.
I think she was nominated for Taxi Driver. But
that's right. Okay, there you go. That's it.
And now she's playing a 13-year-old prostitute. So
which is another one. Who hasn't seen it? But I guess just throw it out there. Fucking see Taxi Driver, because it's one of the greatest movies ever made.
It is a great movie. I haven't seen it in a long time though, so it's something I probably need to watch again.
It's been a while for me too, but obviously it's one of the most memorable movies ever made. One of the one of the greatest performances, or a couple of great performances, but one of the iconic Robert De Niro performances.
And Robert De Niro's just woo. He plays it good though,
He's always been like it's like I've never met him in person, but growing up in New York and being around a lot of actors, I know a lot of people who knew him personally, and he's apparently like very, very shy and withdrawn when you talk to him in person. Like he doesn't like, like his performances. He brings it all out, but I mean he's not as flamboyant as like Pacino, but
well, no, but he does an amazing job in his prior years of acting anyway. But I didn't know this. They said that although Taxi Driver generated further controversy for its role in the John Hinckley Jr.'s motive to attempt to assassinate Ronald Reagan, what did Taxi Driver have to do with that?
Because Hinckley was in love with Jodie Foster. Because
that's right. He was writing letters to her. That's right.
And he thought that if he killed the president, then Jodie would fall in love with him.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
I mean that's one way to grab someone's attention.
Yeah, write some letters to Jodie Foster. Try to assassinate a sitting president. That'll get you all kinds of attention.
He had John Hinckley's love for Jodie Foster to try to kill, what was it, Ford, wasn't
it? I don't know.
I don't know that.
I can't. Who did he try to kill? Which president?
Reagan.
And then you have Squeaky Fromm, her love for Charles Manson to kill Ford. That was it.
That's wait. Ford does not sound right.
Yeah.
Hinckley
Reagan
tried to
and
kill
Ford.
Reagan to profess his love to Jodie Foster.
Yep, at least we're not writing letters to Jodie Foster. Yeah.
And he'd been better off probably getting a sex change. He probably would have had more of her love.
You would have had a better chance.
And you had Mark David Chapman, who decided to show John Lennon how much he loved him by putting 6 bullets into John Lennon that same year.
Probably a good idea because he stopped making good music by that time. So
yeah, you might have a point.
No
wonder you have stalkers.
No wonder. So David, what are your thoughts about The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane?
Right, for me it was a bit complicated. So first of all, you guys gave me like a new perspective in terms of like the power of acting and the fact that the thing you just basically say, the fact that this is like a very powerful young actress who is very successful. I didn't even look into actors and actresses. Normally I'm more of a conceptual person. So I base my analysis on movies or everything I watch based on the conceptual, the message that they send to the people who are watching it, this life lesson, the morals and whatever. I'm very much of an educational guy. So
well, you're the target audience, hon.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so from my perspective was a big because I'm very much of a conceptual person. This movie was very much controversial, but very uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah,
obviously that theme was very uncomfortable, obviously, especially because watching something, I never watched this movie before. Watching it these days and watching certain scenes was like, I can't believe they did that. Obviously, it was back in the days, and it was done as a controversial thing to make people think, to go beyond of the normal thinking. Obviously, you can see that from even the other characters when they like talked about the fact like the landlady, who's the girl is kind of getting to the heat up conversation, telling her, well, I don't know about your son, do you want to know about your son? And the lady's like in denial completely, and everybody knows, but they don't say anything, they don't do anything. And
I guess he was molesting people in town, wasn't he?
And then at some point they said, in fact, I might got it wrong, but it's kind of like the landlady made him get married with a woman who already had children, so they're not really his children. Or did I get it wrong? And thinking that way, it's kind of like, so they're not his sons, so it's already weird.
Well, it's basically to cover up his little kitty feeling, isn't it? It's a marriage of convenience.
Yes, just to make sure that he's covered up somehow. He's got a family, so it's not too weird. It's kind of like, okay, we can fit this person into the normal concept of family sort of thing, And it was very uncomfortable to watch, and there was this tension about this character being obviously a pedophile, and then this girl trying to survive and fight, and all the killing of the girl. So from my perspective, maybe it's my generation, maybe it's just me, I'm more used to, I'm going to say unfortunately, modern cinema, where it's very clear who the villain is and who the heroes are. In this movie, I could not understand whether the girl was fighting for survival and killing because she needed to survive, or whether I was supposed to hate the girl because she was killing people. And it was weird. So obviously it was kind of like, okay, no, she's young, she's alone, she needs to survive. Okay, so she's killed a pedophile. Like, okay, that's fine. That makes sense. That's black and white. That's clear. But then then you see the part that she killed the mother, but she didn't know. And then the part when she killed the landlady, but there was not kind of accident. So there were too many things.
Door fell on her head.
Yeah, exactly. So she didn't.
She was
really
going
kill
there
her.
though. That's what I'm saying. Can you really defend her character because she was going there?
Oh no! I did not like.
Well, I think another thing I think you have to kind of look at with the killing of Mrs. Hallett anyway is that even if because it's an accident anyway, and no, she had nothing to do with it, she still's got to cover it up because at the same time, if she doesn't, she's now her home is now a murder scene, and the police and there are going to be a lot of questions of where's the dad now,
right?
And it's gonna put her in this huge spotlight basically on her, and then basically she's just going to be shipped to a children's home, probably be sexually abused by foster parents for the rest of her life. I mean, that's not. Does anyone have a good foster parent story of these kids who've been fostered? I mean, I've yet to hear one. So I think so. So they don't. That doesn't look like a good pretending, and so.
It was very much like a survival story kind of thing. And then it connected me. I don't know if you remember the movie you remember watch, Keith, Angel. It reminded me of that movie.
Yes, it does kind of, doesn't it?
So it's kind of like this girl who doesn't have the father. No, was it the mother or the father who ran away in the movie? And then she had to
The mother ran away, the father ran off first.
Yeah. And in that movie, she became a prostitute because she had to survive. So you feel like, oh, that's
I love every character in that movie, Angel,
but,
especially.
High school student by day, hooker by night. Angel.
But again, that was
another. You can't get away with that shit now anymore. Those were great times.
No, exactly.
Movies. Everybody's so fucking uptight now. You can't.
Well, the interesting thing about 70s movies anyway is that this is what quite telling. Up until like 1982, 83, audiences were more intelligent. So basically, and I think it also has to do and if you look at 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s films, the thing is. They expect the audience to fill in the backstory.
Right.
Nowadays the backstory is told out to you like in black and white. It's like it's thrown in your face, left, right.
And they also tend to sugarcoat everything these days and very much make villains the heroes. The thing I'm so used to.
Yeah, there's always
because people make a big deal about things, whether it's kind of like, well, I'm doing a movie because I'm kind of explaining how things really are without sugarcoating them. That's the reality.
If you think about what happened in the 80s, that was, although they started in the 70s, the 80s was the rise of the mega blockbuster.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, on the one hand, you get movies that are great, like Back to the Future and stuff like that, but on the other, Jurassic Park and all that stuff. But on the other end of it, you kind of start to see the smaller films kind of start to shrink even more because now everybody's going to see the new big blockbuster movie,
Terminator, all that stuff,
all that stuff, which again I have nothing against, but I think film viewing needs to be kind of like a diet, when kind of like your physical diet, like you need to get your protein in there too. Well,
the interesting stuff is that people's attention spans are a lot shorter now as well. Now before up in in the 70s, films in the 70s basically is that every 25 minutes you had to make sure something happened because that the attention span of the population would die within 25 minutes. So you had to make something happen. So that way people, keep them awake. Nowadays, you have to do it every 10 to 11 minutes.
Oof.
This is how people's attention spans have died now. And basically that's the reason why now, when you see any kind of film, you notice every 10 to 11 minutes something happens. All the time.
That's
and
like Avatar, that new one's like something was always happening in Avatar.
And you have to because people's attention spans are a lot shorter. And that could be because of mobiles, it could be social media, it could be computers, it could be a lot of different
probably all the above.
I'm going to ask a question. If I may, I'm going to ask a question on that. Do you think it's the attention span diminishing, or is it the cinema going towards that direction, feeding us and dragging us towards that direction? It's kind of
I think it's people basically, because what they found in within social settings is that what they find is conversation dies. You get a group of people, conversation dies every 10, 11 minutes.
Because everybody's on their cell phone.
Well, it's not just that. What happens is that that what tends to happen in a normal setting is conversation has that bit of a slight pause, and then the conversation changes, and then it starts again, and it changes and starts again, and they find that now in a social setting. But we are living in a more fast, Diet Coke era anyway, where basically it's like everything's very quick. Everything's very fast. We want everything today. We want everything, everything that we wanted yesterday. We no longer want to work for. That's the reason why we're all going to debt. If you look at, but that has a lot to do. I don't think it's films that have made us this way. I think it's technology and social settings that made us this way. I mean, nowadays it's like, we complain if we order from Amazon and we have to wait one day to get it. Where back in the 70s, you ordered something and you're lucky if you got it within 3 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, even in the 90s, I remember buying movies in the 90s, and like it would allow 4 to 6 weeks for delivery.
Yeah.
So yeah, there were a lot of, but one thing going back to the idea of every 25 minutes something has to happen versus now, about 10 years ago. No, it was 2011. Stephen Gladstone and I wrote a screenplay together, and it was a ghost story. And I remember that we sent it out to a lot of competitions, and we picked up a couple of wins here and there. But I remember a certain competition. God, their name was really ironic because of what they said to us. But I remember their notes coming back to why they rejected us. And one of the problems is that we started with a murder in the first sequence of the movie, and then we spent the next 40 pages building up the characters. Like the next murder doesn't take place until page 47, and that's a problem
for them.
I'm like, well,
that'd be 30 minutes. 40 pages around 30-35 minutes, depending on how much dialogue and action.
So yeah, they were like, in horror movies you need a body every 10 minutes. I'm like, Halloween.
Yeah.
Halloween, you have the first murder where
but Halloween's 1978.
Yeah, I was like, God, I wish I could remember. For the life of me, I cannot remember the name of this film festival, but I remember they had a name that made that really ironic that they were telling us that, because
I think things are coming around though, full circle though, because I've noticed that it takes a little while to get your first kill in now in a lot of these movies. So I mean, maybe things are swinging back to have more substance. Possibly.
Well, you can still have a lot of substance. What you have to do is you have to be a little bit more clever now. So basically what you can do, you might not need the killing sort of thing, but what you can do is you can have a twist plot happening that's like, or something like that with dialogue and stuff like that. So you can hit your crescendo when you need to.
Right.
You're just gonna have to do it a little bit. You can't do it. You might not be able to do it with a kill, but you can do it with like a little bit of a foreshadowing or a little bit of or throw a cat at one of the actors. That always helps. But to show you how our attention spans are. I mean, how often do people text people and they get really upset when you don't text them right back? Or you phone someone and they go, where have you been? It's like, well, I wasn't available. It's like, excuse me, but I do have a life outside.
This is why you have a stalker.
There's certain people that, like, if I don't hear from them like once a day, I start to worry about them because they usually text me like multiple times. But there's times when people, like I'll message somebody or I'll text somebody and I don't hear back for a couple days, and then they'll text me and be like, oh, hey, sorry, I didn't get back to you. Or sometimes even after a couple of hours, some people say, oh, hey, sorry, I didn't get back to you. And I'm like, I understand you exist outside of like my world. So you might. But
a lot of people don't. A lot of people can't comprehend that.
Yeah.
They need that instant gratification now, sort of thing. So it's interesting.
So I find myself a lot of times saying, you don't have to apologize for having a life. I totally understand. Like, you were doing something. You were doing something that didn't involve me.
It's the kind of addiction to social media. I've seen like a lot of, without the same names or whatever, let's just say friends, colleagues, whatever. A lot of people are so much into social media. I had my face of Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever. I faded away from that because it's stressful.
Well, you're back
No,
to it now,
doesn't-
babe. You're back to it now. Welcome to the Literary License Podcast.
No, it become, you think back and I'm like, okay, that was an addiction. I started putting pictures and sentences or whatever, and I'm like, I can't be bothered anymore. I waste so much time, and then the day goes by, and it's like, okay, whatever. And then even messaging on WhatsApp or whatever, and sometimes I'm like, I can't be bothered to respond and to stay behind the phone.
Especially
and
if you friend somebody on Instagram immediately. So what's up in your life? It's just like, I don't know you.
I've genuinely removed everything from my social media because I don't want to be involved in stuff like that.
People are general. There's a lot of stalkers out there.
But that's my choice.
Anything or anyone.
I normally get a dick pic and asking me if I'm single.
I know, I get some of those, and I'm wondering if it's me they're aiming for or you.
I turned off notifications for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat so that I'm only seeing people's comments and stuff when I physically go press the button to go on.
Yeah, I've done
Facebook.
that as well.
Yeah, I've done the same.
Because I'm like, I cannot have my phone dinging because this person retweeted me, or this person liked my post, or this person commented on my post. I'm like, I can't.
Twitter is definitely one social media I've never got into. Thank God.
It's
more difficult because you got everything there.
And you know,
that's it.
Everybody that's listening to this that knows me personally, most of the people on my phone are muted. So if you text me, I'm not going to know until I go in and I press the text thing, because there's only a very few people who I give that kind of access to.
Yeah.
You know, and it's basically family, close friends, people I have to interact with because of work or other things. But besides that, the other thing, and again, if you're one of the people who does this, I'm sorry, I am not going to respond to you if you just message me, what's up? Like, dude, if you have something to say it. Don't bother me with nonsense.
But it's kind of like you grow up and suddenly you realize, wait, the more I grow up, the less time I have. So for me, it's specifically about time. Specifically, it's about, I have to choose what I want in my life, what I want to focus on. Because if I have billions of social media and follow that, and then the message, and no, I can't be bothered. I need to focus on the few things I'm interested in too, because the life is already full of stuff and I don't have time for anything. There's work. I spend more time at work to see my family, my brothers, and the little time I have left, I can't be bothered to stay on Instagram or messaging. I can't be bothered. If I want to interact with people, I'd rather do it live. Otherwise, I just don't do it. I mean, in this case, it's a bit different because we're doing something different. But you know what I mean? It's
I'm just saying that. I'm just saying, as out of all my social media friends, they don't mean as much to me as Tom from MySpace.
I miss Tom from MySpace.
MySpace. He was everyone's friend. He was so open. He didn't discriminate. He was so inclusive of everyone.
But to kind of back up, David, it's kind of like that for me, because I'm like, I work 40 hours a week. I research movies for this podcast. The time I have, I want to spend it doing what I want. I write a lot. I'm like the other day, right now, because I was just talking about this earlier. We've been nominated for I'm reading a book on Rondo Hatton at the same time.
Oh, that's right. You were telling me about that.
Because I'm like, you know what? I mean, I already knew about him, but I wanted to get more in depth because we're probably going to get nominated for another Rondo Award. I mean, usually we do.
And we're being nominated for four.
Very possibly 4. Hopefully. So we'll see when those nominations come out. But I'm constantly doing stuff that I, either to research for this podcast. I'm watching movies for this podcast. I'm working a full-time job. I'm working on several scripts that I'm in the planning stages of. Working with film festivals. I'm like, I don't have a lot of time for myself, and the time that I do have for myself, I want to use for myself. And if I can figure out a way to include you in that, absolutely I will. But you got to understand, like David said, the very little time that as an adult that you have, you realize, I need it for me. I love and cherish my 5,000 close personal friends on Facebook, and I give them all my time and energy.
I keep mine private. I get some hateful shit, man. But I don't really give a fuck what people think anymore.
don't,
Anyway,
yeah.
this is it. What you see is
The
what you
more
get.
I get a lot of marriage proposals. That's what I get. I don't know why.
I get lots of
why.
gay porn, and I know it can't be aimed at me. It has to be you guys. Because I mean, do I look like I need gay porn?
Well, I did. Well, I did put down on my on our social media that you are a transsexual.
I'm
Sorry.
a transsexual. Well, that would explain that. Because I get people say I get shit all the time now. Are you into kinky sex? And I go, dude, do you know who you writing? Which one of us are you trying to talk to?
So, Vicky, what you're telling us is you're a woman on the internet.
I'm a woman on the internet, apparently. I am, I swear.
As soon as somebody follows you on Instagram, so hey, what's up? Are you into kinky sex? I'm like, this is like almost every woman. Almost every woman I know. It's like
I have American soldiers who are stationed in Syria and they don't have enough money to buy shirts.
I've noticed that.
Yeah.
I did, however, finally get one.
Obviously, the army doesn't pay people enough to buy them shirts. So.
But I've seen some pictures of the guys that are writing to you, and they're pretty hot. So
yeah,
I can see why they don't have a shirt.
I get a lot of friend requests from obvious bots who are not the woman in the picture, and then always when I look at the mutual friends, it's always like the same 5 people that apparently fell for this.
Exactly.
Like, oh my god, you're so beautiful. Like, dude, she's not real. This is this is not a real human being you're interacting with. If you do a reverse Google image on that fucking profile photo, you'll find out it's a model whose name is not whatever the fuck this person claims to be.
Megan the robot.
But I get a lot of those.
The world of
like,
social
this
media.
is obviously a bot. Like as soon as you,
it's kind of sad because
I love you. I think of you every day, and then within 2 weeks, is like, oh, can you buy me an Amazon gift card?
Yeah, or they try to give me their crypto pitch with it.
Oh my god! I am insanely sick about Bitcoin and crypto. Crypto, Bitcoin, whatever. It's like, fuck you. Y'all stop friggin' writing. I don't want Bitcoin or crypto.
There's always some ghetto rat posing in front of a Mercedes or something. Look at what I got, my Bitcoin.
Well, we saw how FTX worked out with crypto. Yeah, I'm gonna jump right on that train. Yeah. Crying out loud, man.
The power of the social media.
Whenever someone sends that, I go, can I give you my accountant's details? And I never hear from them again. Let me give you my accountant's details.
Oh, there was one guy I used to work with, and the kid was pretty dumb. But I ended up having to block him on social media. And when I saw him at work, he's like, why'd you block me? He was like, because you keep, this is like 10 years ago. You keep sending me the same link to get my free iPad. He's like, well, I keep getting hacked. I'm like, well, stop clicking the link. Like, clearly they're getting your password from you clicking that link, thinking well, what if they actually are giving me a free iPad? I'm like, no, it's not happening.
It gives you anything for free in this life.
There's no such thing as free lunch.
Precisely. You can't even get a free blowjob nowadays.
No, shit, no. And as a transvestite, I would know.
Oh gosh.
I haven't been able to get any head in a long time.
I know. Well, you have to be careful. Apparently, you're being targeted. You have to be careful, Vicky, out there.
I know. Well, I know I'll probably get a host of emails now.
For those of you studying comedy, that's what we refer to as a callback.
Right.
So back to the little girl who lives down the lane. I think what we should do, now we talk about chicks with dicks, basically, let's rate it. Starting with you, David. How many stars would you give to the little girl who lives down the lane?
That's most difficult
How many
question.
pedos? How many pedos do you give it?
So that's a very difficult question because I had no idea how to what to think about this movie. There were a lot of
Well,
things.
what did you like about it? Did you like it? I mean, did it have some high points for you that you appreciated?
So I did not think before actually you guys talked about this, the fact that the young actress was actually very good, and the fact that the landlady was a great actress, that she managed to make herself hated. That's actually a good point, to be honest. I mostly focused on the topics and the conceptual side of the story, and because it was very confusing, very uncomfortable story, it was an interesting thriller, don't get me wrong, but maybe not down my alley, if it makes sense. I would have given it 2, maybe a 2.5 out of 5. I wasn't a big fan, but that's because probably that's not my genre, if that makes sense.
Right.
But then maybe I'm biased, so I shouldn't be taken into
No,
consideration.
an honest answer is a good answer.
That's good.
There's no right or wrong answer.
No, don't get me wrong. I believe
we may never see you again after this, but no, that's fine.
Oh, gosh. No, I believe in educated answers, because I don't have the education of cinema. I see it from a perspective of a person
The
who
viewer,
doesn't know much
which
about
is
cinema, if that
fine.
makes sense. Yeah. But from a viewer perspective,
no
I wasn't a big fan.
There's no right or
Now
wrong
you're going to get a
answer.
bunch of raising pedophiles writing into our inbox about how much they hate you.
I miss pedophiles in school. It was great. We used to show the pedophile.
Don't say this as a joke.
we had a pedophile at in Sackett, and he gave us a quarter every time we showed him on our underwear. So we would show him our underwear, get our quarter, and go buy candy.
I can't believe that.
Shit, at this point, I'd start showing my underwear if there was a good fee in it. God,
Oh,
I gotta buy eggs.
But we did. His name was Chicky.
Hi everyone, this is the last episode.
So Joe, how many stars do you give? How many pedos do you give the little girl who lives on Lane?
See, and I mean, if anything, if I could tell Davide this, what I use to the way I decide how I'm going to rate a movie is how engrossed I am by it. Like if it's something where like this movie, despite this was my second viewing of it because I had seen it last year and I just want to refresh my memory. But I watched it the other night, and the entire running time, even though I knew what was going to happen because I'd seen the movie one other time, I still was completely immersed in what was going on, and that's how I come to my
okay.
Which is why, if I've told people I give Casablanca 5 stars. I've told people I give Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers 5 stars because I judge a movie by what it's intended to be, and how much entertainment, enjoyment, immersion I get from it. In this case, I love the writing, I love the acting, I love the direction. It's a beautifully shot film. So to me, this is a 5-star movie. But like I said, there's no wrong answers to this. But I just go by how much enjoyment I got out of a movie. Did I check the other one I use is the watch test. Do I look up the runtime before I watch a movie? I might go, well, I started the movie at 12:15 and it's now 1:20. So how much time is left? If I'm not doing that, then you've got me. If I'm not checking my phone, then you've got me. I mean, most of the time, most people, like I said, are on mute anyway. So if anybody's coming through, I can glance over like for a text. But I mean, if I'm not picking up my phone and like looking into things, then you've got me. And that's where I come from. And this movie completely had me entranced the entire time. And that to me, 5 stars, because it's so easy to get yourself distracted. So, and I have so many options to distract myself. So absolutely 5 stars for this. I absolutely love the performances. I love the writing, which we did not talk much about the writing, but this is such a tight screenplay. Everything it sets up, it pays off. And this is the kind of movie that I feel rewards you more if you pay attention.
Real quick, Joe. Real quick.
Yeah, what's up?
You're talking about the writing. Do you think that the writing progressed to the point where you didn't see it coming mostly, or it had you knowing it was coming? The way they plotted this out.
I never actually found it. I actually didn't. I've seen this movie multiple times, but I never really work out exactly how it's going to play out. Even though there's a lot of foreshadowing and stuff like this, but but it never really it plays out. But I'm always a bit surprised by the ending still.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was surprising, the ending, even though I knew it was going to happen. You almost knew when Martin Sheen got in there that was going to happen at the end.
You still get a sense of how is she going to get herself out of this. And in the scene where she's with Scott Jacoby and he comes in, you still have that sense of how are they going to get out of this.
Right.
This movie, and that's another reason I love this movie. The tension in the movie to me is just.
I mean, even the teacups where she puts the arsenic in the cup,
almond cookies.
She's smart enough.
In the cup in front of her. And then she just goes, "Oh, why don't you drink your drink?" Yes. And then he goes, "Well, I want to drink out of your cup then." And then she gives him the, and then she's
how did she know to do that? That is the brilliant writing part, right? Well,
because she knew he wasn't a complete moron, too.
Yeah, that's true. She was so decisive and everything and meticulous into what she knew.
Well, to be honest, if you're gonna be a person, you need to be one step ahead of everyone anyway.
Yeah, what a brilliant little girl. I mean, she is a little girl as far as I'm concerned at that point. So
yeah, this would have been this was kind of a mental game of chess at the end. She knew what he was going to do. She knew that he knew that.
Right.
Well, what's quite interesting about this, the writing about this, is that we get this same scene with Scott Jacoby's character.
Yeah,
we get coughing.
Yes,
he was. And we get the same character then.
Yeah,
but we don't know if she's going to poison him or not, because he got rid of the car, so now it's his usefulness gone to her. So we don't know that side of it either. When that scene
happened, had he buried the bodies yet, or that's before he buried the bodies, right?
I think it was before.
Before, because he didn't have a cold yet. Because he got
pneumonia. He had a cough. Yeah, he had a cough, but I don't.
He got pneumonia from helping hide the bodies.
Yeah, hide the bodies. So he hid the car. He got rid of the car, but not the body, because it was his idea to hide the body, and you got to do something about the bodies.
Yeah.
We didn't mention the cop, the uncle. What's his name? He did the musical score, I believe.
He's another one that was really good in this. He like you have
Schumer,
somebody
or whatever his name is. What's his name?
Showman. Mort Shuman, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he was a composer, and he made a lot. He was a lot of hit songs. So
oh my God, yes.
He's playing the cop just dim-witted enough that like he's your like average person who's not an idiot, but not like super intelligent either.
Just oblivious about everything, basically.
Oblivious, yes. He's your average schmo. That's what he is. Doesn't read poetry, but he's still excited about getting a autographed book from a poet, even though it means nothing.
Because he sees the value in it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a celebrity, isn't it? A celebrity in town sort of thing. He might not appreciate the celebrity, but
that specific scene, I thought that she was making fun of him, like fooling him about, oh yeah, this is poetry, blah blah blah, and he was like, oh, okay, like a kind of like, she could have said anything, and the guy would have been like, oh, okay, So it's kind of.
But see, the thing is, she's quite clever enough to know to play to his strengths.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I understand that, I don't rhyme, and she goes, yeah, I understand that. It's like, I don't like that. I like him. You know what I mean? It's like, she's still being highbrow, but at the same time, she's kind of taken his thing and kind of gone down to him, but at the same time, not make it obvious.
Which is a characteristic of having a lot of charisma, is being able, you might be at this level of intelligence, and the person you're speaking to is this level, but you're able to find common ground with somebody at that level, so that you can come off more personable, which she does very well. Which, God, there's so many layers to this performance that the more I talk about it, the more I like it.
Yeah.
This is I got to pick up the Blu-ray to this because I think Kino Lorber I think put it out. I gotta grab that one eventually. But if you're in the United States, it's on Shudder. I absolutely recommend seeing it. You could watch it with Joe Bob Briggs' commentary throughout.
His commentary is great.
He cuts in and out like a horror host does. So you have that aspect of it. And he will absolutely educate you on the history of this film, the history of Alexis Smith, of Jodie Foster, of Mort Shuman, of Martin Sheen.
Oh yeah, it was full of information on this. I love Joe Bob Briggs though. Can't go wrong because he's always got a cornucopia of factoids about every movie that he's covering.
Yeah. So. And he presents everything in an entertaining way, which again, Joe Bob's knowledge is up here on these kinds of movies, and again, it's the charisma. He's able to come down and talk to those of us who don't know as much as him. Right. And I don't think if I lived 3 lifetimes I'd ever know as much.
No kidding. Oh my God.
The guy must have been researching cinema like in his teens, like, and we're talking, I'm absolutely gushing about this movie and about Joe Bob. But if you're in the United States and I think Canada, it's on Shudder. Absolutely check this movie out. I adore this movie.
And how many pedos do you give it, Vic?
I give it 5 dead pedos for all the reasons Joe just discussed, and I totally back him up on everything. I don't even know if it was really, I guess it's a horror genre, but it seems more suspenseful, more, I don't know. It's not typical slasher flick. It's a killer kid flick, kind of, sort of. But I mean, there's nothing about it I can't say I don't like, except that Martin Sheen is a creepy pedophile and he gave me the
But even
and the hamster. I don't care if it was a frozen hamster.
Oh gosh, yeah.
It just always freaks me out when there's animal violence. You can kill everybody till the cows come home if you're a human being. But if it's an animal or a small child, I lose my shit. And it's like, no, not the hamster. Poor Gordon. Thank God the real Gordon was alive, but
that's the reaction you're supposed to have. So even there, it succeeds in just.
I know, but it makes me crazy.
Making this character come off completely revolting and you're completely reviling.
And he was.
That's what you're supposed to do.
I mean, who in their right mind would? I mean, maybe Keith. I don't know. Put a cigarette out in somebody's pet hamster's eye. I mean.
Well. That's quite interesting. She, it's the only thing that she loves in the world.
Was her hamster. But then she didn't really realize that she was lonely until she met Mario. And then she realized, wow, I am lonely. So there was, I got to stop talking because I'm going to keep thinking of new things.
There's the old adage, it's lonely at the top. And when you're that intelligent, that well-read, there's really nobody else on your level. So again, you kind of, how do you
age? I mean, she's not even hit puberty barely,
She's very, she's a very advanced 13 at this point, which I'm sure Jodie Foster was too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He didn't even look at any other girls for this part. He saw her, he wanted her.
Apparently Martin Scorsese showed him Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, and he went, "That's the girl right there. That's who I need."
The wig, though, I wish they would have done a better wig. That wig made me flipping nuts. I will say that. I should have took back a pedo just for the wig, but I love the movie so much. I can't.
Well, apparently the wig and the chip tooth was Jodie Foster's mother's idea.
Really?
And the director went away because so therefore what you're seeing is what she's projecting, that though the real her is buried behind all that.
Right.
So you never because Jodie Foster's mom said that with that character, she thought that Jodie Foster, the character, is hiding behind this facade. Right. But in the movie you never find out who the real Rynn is at all.
Right.
Oh.
Like we said, man, layer upon layer in the performance.
I know. If we keep talking about it, we'll be talking about it till for another 2 hours because it just keeps making me think of new shit. So.
Building. Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm going to give it a 5-star rating only because I've seen this movie. This was a staple of mine growing up because it was so much about my life. No,
it was a made-for-TV movie. That's scary, though. It was going to be a made-for-TV film. It's like, what?
Well, I remember when it first came on TV. I think it was CBS or one of those stations when it first came on, and I remember watching it with my mom and stuff like that. And so I really enjoyed it. I remember when it came on HBO. HBO was in its infancy when it came on. It was between that and Mandingo. And
Mandingo. My God! Don't even get me going about Mandingo.
And my father let me watch. Little girl lives down the lane, and I wasn't allowed to watch Mandingo. But probably a good thing. But and then when I got older, it's like I remember I had the VHS of this, and then I do have the DVD of this. I need to get the Blu-ray of this. And to be honest, this time I did watch on Amazon Prime. And that's what they said. Every time I watch it, I just get drawn into it, and I really do I love the performances. I like the way it's written. I like the little nuances that happened, and I'm a huge fan of 70s filmmaking anyway. I just find it grittier, and I like the end
about it, just different.
The ending of it, but the ending of it is like it's not a good happy ending either. It's an ending that you're not quite sure.
The ending though, 3 minutes of her watching Martin Sheen die, that's all that is 3 minutes of her watching that man die.
But it's not even an ending, because the thing is, like, where does she go from here?
No,
it's kind of
so you're kind of left up in the air the whole time, because it's like, well, now mother and son are missing. What happens now? Are the police going to be coming by? Are people going to be questioning her?
I know.
Is she out of the woods? You be left alone to just solve her problems, and that's how.
That makes you question kind of the condition of this girl. She's kind of very smart. She can manage to survive, but now you're getting into a challenging position where this guy's dead as well.
And we'll never
know. Really killed it. And then what's going to happen? Well, that's the end of the story. And it makes
I would like to think she got away with it, because they were useless, horrible, heinous human beings anyway.
It's possible.
Yeah, of course.
Well, nobody really likes them.
Yeah, no one likes them, but they do have money. But the thing is, it depends, I guess, at the end of the chain. Would the wife be looking for Martin Sheen's character? But then again, would the wife want to be looking at where he might be, might be sexually molesting the little girl who lives down the lane?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's also the line in there where Martin Sheen's character says, "Did my mother possibly run off with the gentleman of the house?" Which wouldn't be the first time.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's that. She could be like, I guess. My father's not around. I guess my father and Mrs. Shallot just kind of ran off together. She could absolutely spin that, but then how do you account for her son not being there?
Yeah.
So, but I like those ambiguous endings, though. I love an ambiguous ending where you can just let your mind wander. And the thing is, after this movie, every time this movie finishes, I feel unsettled, even though I've seen so many things a lot worse.
Well, it's not really, doesn't really
like that.
Sense. It's not really satisfying to some extent.
I like a film that treats me like I'm an intelligent being, and that's what this film does.
Yes, it does.
I didn't really put it together, but the ending, like you said, where it kind of leaves a question of where do we go from here, kind of reminds me of the ending to Mike Nichols' The Graduate. Where Dustin Hoffman gets to the church, gets the girl. They're riding on the back of the bus, and the camera's just fixated on them as they just kind of, like, in real life, I think they were waiting for Mike Nichols to yell cuts. They were kind of looking uncomfortable, but at the same time, movies tend to end with this happily ever after thing, but what happens now? What happens next to this character? And thankfully, this movie came out in 1976, so we don't have a fucking series of movies that are declining in quality.
True.
Milking a franchise,
yeah. And I quite like that.
I do like that we could have this discussion. Because they didn't. God was look what happened to Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah.
We didn't get that thing. We didn't get the equivalent of that, thankfully.
Oh, that was pretty hideous as well.
It was. Still is. I watched it last year. Like, shit, this was not a good movie.
Yeah.
Are you looking for a graphic design that will take you to the next level? Or something that shows confidence within a growing market to help you stand out amongst the crowd? Amazing Designs gives consistent and on-brand designs whether you are looking for something conservative or you want to let your imagination soar. They bring professionalism to a high standard, and they are able to visualize your ideas and give them that extra edge. Working one-on-one with their designers will give you a design that will live up to your expectations and more. Affordable, expert designs for all occasions, whether it's logos, brochures, or whatever you can dream of. Amazing Designs is your to-go place for creativity and hands-on expertise. Try Amazing Designs today. Contact them via email at amazingdesigns505@gmail.com. That's amazingdesigns505@gmail.com, or reach out by phone at country code 1-805-203-0427. We love them so much here at the Literary License Podcast that we use them ourselves.
But I'd rather be different than be the same.
Now, moving on to our next girl, which is Alice, Sweet Alice, or originally titled Communion, which is a 1976 American psychological slasher film co-written and directed by Alfred Soule, and starring Linda Miller. Interesting enough, Linda Miller is Jason Patrick's mother, and Paula Shepard and Brooke Shields in her film debut. Set in 1961 New Jersey, the film focuses on a troubled adolescent girl who becomes a suspect in the brutal murder of her younger sister at her first communion, as well as a series of unsolved stabbings that follow. Inspired by Nicholas Roeg's Don't Look Now from 1973 and the films of Alfred Hitchcock, writer-director Soule devised the screenplay with Rosemary Rizzo, an English professor who was his neighbor. At the time, Soule has been working as an architect, restoring historical buildings in his hometown of Paterson, New Jersey, and several properties he had worked on while used as shooting locations. Filming took place throughout the summer of 1975 in Paterson and Newark. The film premiered at the Chicago International Film Festival, where its original title, Communion, in November 1976, and was released under the title in London in September 1977. After being acquired by Allied Artists, it was retitled Alice, Sweet Alice and released in the United States on November 18, 1977. Another theatrical re-release occurred in 1981 under the title Holy Terror, which marked the popularity of Shields after a performance in Lou Mal's Pretty Baby from 1978. While not prosecuted for obscenity, the film was seized and confiscated in the UK under Section 3 of the Obscene Publications Act of 1959 during the video Nasty Panic, and was controversial in Ireland due to the apparent anti-Catholic themes. In the years since its release, Alice, Sweet Alice has gained a cult following as considered a contemporary classic of the slasher subgenre in critical circles. It has also been the focus of scholarship in the area of horror film studies, particularly regarding in its depiction of Roman Catholicism, child emotional neglect, and its disintegration of the American nuclear family. What we're going to do is cut to the trailer of Alice, Sweet Alice, and be right back.
Brooke Shields in Holy Terror. Alice was too old to play with dolls and too young to make love. Brooke Shields, as you've never seen her before. She was too beautiful to play with boys and too young to play with men. So Alice began to play with death.
She's made repeated requests that the kid see a psychiatrist.
She has a knack of making things look like accidents.
It's dead! It's dead! He tried to kill me!
No more dolls, no more toys. Alice only plays with bodies. It's too late to save her. A story of unnatural love and unnatural death. Brooke Shields in Holy Terror. It's too late for prayers.
Hello Hello, welcome back to Liz Your License Podcast. We're discussing Alice, Sweet Alice from 1976. And David, what are your thoughts of Alice, Sweet Alice, considering that you're so much in love with Catholicism?
Well, actually, I was raised Catholic, and then I kind of like decided to step back from Catholicism and kind of find my way in life. But that's just completely different.
Same here.
I have side
just
steps
focus on the
all
movie.
over the place, darling. Let me tell you.
Okay, let's just focus on the movie. That's another complicated movie. Okay, there was another uncomfortable topic because there was a little bit of the pedophilia, just sided basically.
Well, yeah, the pedophilia is a lot less.
But it was suggested.
Weaker.
It was
It's there, but it's not as
is
overt as in.
Exactly.
Well, who was that guy? That big fat pervert guy. Oh my God.
Yeah, that was
Alfonso
very
de
uncomfortable to watch. Oh my gosh.
No,
Again, these days they wouldn't be able to make stuff like that in the movie. I don't think so.
No.
Watching was very uncomfortable. But I think there was much more focused on obviously on the killing, the mysterious thrilling of the killing. And then obviously I could see a lot of Catholicism symbology and the kind of like idea of the fact that that I think that's kind of like one of the things that we're getting into like too much religious topics. I think this is a bit of a hot topic, but without getting much into it, it was pretty much I think that the thing that came out in the movie, the message, or the critics was the kind of like, oh yeah, so you commit sin, and then you go to the priest and can be forgiven, it's all good. And it's kind of like, well, that's
go back out and sin again.
And then you sin again, and then I think if I remember
that's God's gift to the Christian. God gave us pork and absolute love. Everlasting love.
So I remember that
if it wasn't for Christ, you wouldn't have bacon today. Just remember that.
I'm vegetarian, by the way.
The great Simpsons bit where a pastor asks Bart what he's going to do about the afterlife, and Bart responds, basically a life of sin and presto changeo, deathbed conversion, going to heaven.
Yeah, I remember back in my Italian literature studies, I had very, very faded memories. I remember that if I don't make any mistakes in remembering, Dante, the famous poet and writer Dante Alighieri, wrote about the fact that certain people were just like forgiven by the priest. Like, you go to the priest and then you're forgiven and everything is fine, and then you kind of put that and it's like Divina Commedia, because it's kind of like, well, the priest comes to you, you're all forgiven. It's like, well, that's bullshit, I'm sorry, but
well, you're nobody unless you've been molested by one. Let's put it that way.
Well, did you find it rather offensive? I was raised Catholic, went to Catholic school for 9-10 years and all the whole 9 yards, that they held it against Alice because she was born out of wedlock, so she could not have communion, which is really an antagonistic part to the whole movie. This is where shit gets started.
I mean, look at the Virgin Mary. She had a baby without wedlock.
I mean, also, I thought Vatican II kind of. Oh wait, no, this is set in 1961. Never mind.
That's right, Vatican II.
Never mind. This is pre-Vatican II. Yes. Never mind. Never mind the point I was about to make.
No, but yes, I can see that. It's kind of like, okay, they hold it against the little girl, and she's got nothing to do with it, because even if you talk about sinning, it's the mother who sinned. If you really look from a Catholic perspective on that.
Yeah, but
the girl's got nothing to do with it.
But you also have to remember that when it comes to a congregation and to a neighborhood or into a community, the children have to pay for their parents' sin anyway.
But it's unfair.
I mean, like for me, where I went to school, for instance, is my parents went to the same school I ended up going to. And so if the teachers hated my parents, they hated me. If they loved my parents, they loved me. But it happens like that in like small towns and communities, and so that, or if something happens, you have an older brother who might be a bit of a piss taker in school, then you kind of have to face the brunt of your older brother's actions.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, it kind of happens with nepotism, because we, if you're someone whose parents were well-to-do and able to open doors for you. You get more opportunities than someone who grew up in a more poor or meager background. So it figures in a lot of ways throughout your life. The idea that, you know, you're paying for your parents' sins.
Did you think this movie was really full of moral and physical decay, kind of? I mean,
but with religion, though, I mean, religion does have a moralistic decay about it anyway. For the simple fact is that, well, the simple fact is that basically you have these people who overlook a congregation, who dictates people's what is good and what is bad about people's behavior. Yeah. More often than not, the people who are dictating this are basically, it's about do as they say, but don't do as I do. And, you know, and to be honest, I mean, when you look at, you know, priests and nuns, really, and there are good ones out there, don't get me wrong. But a lot of, I remember one time that living in Hampstead, and I overlooked the ponds, and the guy downstairs rented he was going away for 2 months, so he rented it off to these 4 or 5 guys who basically were studying to be priests. And they were campus Christmas, but, and, you know, and basically when they came up and spent New Year's Eve with us, I flatly asked them out loud, why are you becoming a priest? I go, and they said, because they were not comfortable with their sexuality. So it was a way for them to come to terms of this. So that's the reason why they went into the priesthood. But if you look at a lot of people going to the priesthood or none, they're normally running away from something and thinking this is going to be the answer, but never actually dealing with it. And then you have, you know, if you look at Catholicism anyway, you know, how can they do marriage counseling when they've never been married? I mean, okay, you're a nun and they say you're married to Jesus. Well, if that's the case, I mean, every marriage is going to fail next to that, isn't it? I mean, it's like, this nun is married to Jesus. I mean, they're like some perfect human being that got cried, you know, whatever. What marriage is going to lead to that?
Well, everything is so ritualistic. I mean, you get the Catholic Church, and I don't know if I'm going to be revealing too much here by accident, but there is nothing more pagan than Catholicism.
Oh my gosh, yes, I agree. We did start it when I went to high school. And we did all the origins of Christianity and how much of the old pagan symbols have been actually added
the
into
blood, the communion part, you got the robes, the candles.
All the symbols are basically have rooted in paganism. It's kind of like the way to tell. It was pretty much the way to tell the old people, well, you can keep your pagan traditions, but we're just going to sugarcoat it with Jesus Christ and Christianity, whatever. So they're going to continue all the festivities, whatever, like the Christmas tree or whatever. You know, getting the Easter eggs,
but people love the public love pageantry. Love pageantry. Whether you're, I mean, and to be honest, every religion has it around the world. Everywhere there's a bit of pageantry and stuff like this.
It's all politics of the religion, basically.
Right.
But I mean, you know, the fastest way to sit up in the front pews of a Catholic religion or any religion is by making sure that you give. The most money you give, the further up the pews you go.
Yeah, they used to make me sit in the front just because I used to fuck off so bad in church. And they used to want to keep an eye on me because they used to force us to go every Friday. So yeah, but there's that.
When I went to Catholic school, I was only there for 2 months, so I didn't have to do that because I'm not Catholic. So, you know, I was a heretic. So.
Right.
I didn't have to do religious lessons, but. I was kicked out after 2 months, though.
Like Vicky, I went to Catholic grammar school, Catholic middle school, Catholic high school.
I lasted 1 year in Catholic high school. I was going to quit if my mother didn't get me out of there. Sorry,
I got kicked out of Catholic middle school. I got kicked out in 7th grade and ended up going to a public school. And my parents sent me to a Catholic high school after that. And then after that, they sent me to a fucking Catholic college and I got kicked out in a year. So,
wow. Well, I was raised by nuns.
I guess you're a lost cause, and you can see the good, upstanding Catholic that I am today, wearing a shirt.
Hey, I like that shirt.
Yeah, wearing Baphomet on my chest.
And the power of Christ compel you. I mean, the good thing about not being Catholic is that we don't get demons entering our bodies, so that's good. That only happens to Catholics.
Well, that's the most interesting part.
Amazing how that
I'm
works
joking.
out. Amazing how that works out, isn't it?
Yeah.
You never see a Southern Baptist minister coming out to do exercise anyone, do you?
No, but they got that speaking in tongues shit, which is equally scary. If you've ever been to a Pentecostal church, that is some great.
I know, it's disgusting because when they speak in tongue, they spit when they're talking. It's horrible. You just get like people spitting on the back of your neck.
Oh man.
But as far as the villain, you don't really know who the villain is in this because you've got that halfway clear mask. She's got the saddle shoes on. She's got the raincoat. And I had no idea that Paula was like 19. Shepard was like 19 when this movie was made.
Yeah, she was.
But I
really
mean,
young
they had
girl.
the schoolgirl uniforms down to a science. And, you know, we had a brief there, like Brooke Shields was the killed other little girl. That, you know, you almost think Alice is doing it through this whole movie, though, because everything points to her sister, you know, troubled young girl, whatever, the doll and stuff, and, you know, and everything she wanted that belonged to her sister. Her sister's getting communion because she was born in wedlock. I'm sorry, that was some bullshit right there. That immediately pissed me off watching this movie. Just a personal experience.
There is a sense in this. It does, you know, Keith said during the other that it was I didn't like I put it together watching it that there were a lot of shots that looked like Don't Look Now by Nicolas Roeg, but I didn't realize that this was actually specifically meant to be that way. I was like, but this movie felt like a giallo.
It was it was very voyeuristic because you're watching everything from you're watching some of the kills from a distance.
You would, you know, if it wasn't for the fact that it was set in an obviously very American, if you were to put this in Rome, it would be something that, you know, Dario Argento or Sergio Martino, Mario Bava, one of those guys would be.
The third mother.
Exactly.
Well, the third mother was not a good mother. Well,
the movie also reminded me of Black Xmas and the way it was filmed and you know, just all of the films of the genre of that day were gritty. And
I have to sit there and say that I love the way the style of the film, the way everyone looked. I mean, it kind of, but it had that kind of like documentary feel about it at the same time, the way that they're acting. And that's a hard thing to pull off and keep with it and make it realistic.
Right.
And I knew a lot of mothers growing up in a very Catholic area of Brooklyn. I knew a lot of mothers who, if their child was accused of murder, would be like, no, not my baby. All the evidence points to your child. Doesn't matter. My baby wouldn't do it. That's it. They found him with the knife in his hand. Nope, not my child. They saw him stab the kid. Cannot possibly be my kid.
Do you think that the priest in this movie was very naive?
I mean, don't you have to be kind of naive? This is going to sound so terrible. Don't you kind of have to be a little naive to be a priest in the first place?
Possibly.
Oh, you mean like an innocent sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, unless it's somebody who is actively trying to get away from something, you know.
Well, don't you think he might not have noticed that the lady who helped take care of him might have been a little off the mark?
Well, I mean, the thing is,
basically
the priest is like leading this congregation. First of all, how does he get to lead this congregation? You know, the thing is, you got to look beyond what you see the priest doing in the movie. But if this is a real priest in the congregation, I mean, he's advising people how to live their lives. He's advising people about their marriages. He's advising people their sinning. He's advising people on the way that they should run in their personal lives.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is, what would he know? I mean, well, really, what would he know about any of these things? I mean, it's like, you know, that's why I always found it weird, like in the Catholic religion, is like, you know, we're having difficulties with our marriage. The priest is going to help us. Well, how can a priest help you with your marriage if they've never been married?
Yeah, exactly.
What would they know about personal relationships outside of
psychology, and they had degrees?
I'm sorry, but you still can't know about the inner workings of any marriage, really, unless you've been in a relationship at one point or another.
I agree. I'm just trying to rationalize.
Yeah, that's the thing. You might be married to Jesus, but Jesus isn't coming home tonight, after having a bad day at work, being yelled at by his boss, hitting the bar, reeking of whiskey, and smacking you around.
Right.
So you're never going to be able to connect to people on that level.
I mean, I can understand why people marry convicts while they're in jail, because at least they're where they are at night. But you know what I mean? It's like, you see them at their best behavior. You go through your separate homes, they're locked up, and blah blah. Well, we've had a successful marriage, but it's not a real marriage.
It almost seemed like a precursor to what was coming to follow, like the cartoonish way of the murder with the mask and everything, like in the 1980s. Because then you get all this crazy coming down the pike in the 1980s with the masks. And
well, this is a proto slasher, but definitely.
That's what I'm saying. It has to be.
Mm-hmm.
This is 2 years before Halloween, but it follows, like I said, it feels like a giallo. It feels like something you'd get out of Italy in 1974,
Because it looks exactly like a giallo.
Yeah.
Well, did you notice all the Psycho posters in the background?
Yes.
I noticed it at the train station, and I was like, did they actually happen to have screenings of Psycho taking place as like a revival, or were those put there by the director?
It's a good question.
I don't know. But you talk about a proto slasher. If you're really looking at the roots of the horror film, it's Alfred Hitchcock, Michael Powell, and Mario Bava. They are the ones who created the slasher movie in multiple ways because of Psycho, Blood and Black Lace, and Peeping Tom. So if you're going to do something like this, Hitchcock is the guy who. I think just because that movie happened to be first, but I think him and Michael Powell were shooting.
Michael Powell's career got ruined because of Peeping Tom, didn't it? So and that film, they kind of tried to bury that until Martin Scorsese said it was one of his favorites and brought it back out. So.
And it is a fantastic movie. That's another one on the recommendation list, because probably everybody's seen Psycho. Definitely see Psycho, but also see Blood and Black Lace and Peeping Tom. How do I keep missing the name when we're talking about it? Definitely see them. They are.
It doesn't say anything about those posters. That's going to make me nuts now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that was intentional or not. But you could definitely see the aspects of Psycho in here, where you're thinking the murderer is one person and it turns out to be another.
I did not see that coming. I don't know about you guys. I really thought it was Alice most of the time.
I thought that as well.
It didn't add up. My favorite almost murder was when she was like trying to cut. Well, he or she was stabbing that pesky ant on the stairway.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
yes.
like, man, someone should have just.
No less.
I would have gotten a couple extra shots in there before I let that one go.
Now, another thing I thought this film was very interesting is revealing the killer in the middle of the movie.
Yeah, because
that was interesting.
Was it in the middle of the movie though?
Yeah, when they're killing the father, takes out the
mask. I would have waited until the end.
He pushes him out the warehouse window or whatever that is. Yeah.
I would have preferred the reveal at the end.
I mean, there's a case to be made for both. Like, I could definitely see the reveal at the end, but by doing it by placing it where they did, you're now able to delve into why she's doing it a little bit better.
Well, she's got a thing for the priest, right? She's protective over him, I guess. Is that maybe what it is? Obsessive compulsive. I mean, poor bastard. She does stab him in the neck at the end of it.
Yeah.
But don't you kind of feel like they say, I'm going to say something very controversial. Well, please take it with a pinch.
Oh, please don't be controversial. We don't do that here.
So don't you feel like that the idea of the movie was pushing kind of like, okay, so the woman who was the killer was kind of victim herself of a system that was kind of corrupt. It was kind of like, well, but the Catholicism tells you to forgive, so I will be forgiven if I kill. But that bitch managed to actually get the communion anyway, even though so it's kind of like, she's herself, although she's the killer and we're not justifying, but I kind of understand the reason behind it and why, because she's kind of in that system. So she's like, well, then I should be allowed to take the communion. Then I've got the right to kill her because she's a sinner, So it makes you question not only the killer, makes you question.
But why did she target? You got to wonder. I still don't understand why she targeted Brooke Shields' character in the beginning.
Because she was
The other one was the little sinner.
Well, because she's still married. She was born into a family where they had a child out of wedlock. And
Right.
she's receiving communion. The priest gave her the crucifix.
Next crucifix.
And
Was
so
the crucifix set her off? That's right. Okay.
she pulled it off. She yanked it right off her before she set the corpse on fire.
As it kind of like you don't deserve this.
Yeah,
And
you don't
she
deserve
did that
it
in the
because of who
church
your
with the
parents
nuns.
are.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I mean, everybody, there's first communion going on. It's supposed to be a happy occasion. Everybody's got their rosaries and their little white dresses and whatnot. And he's freaking the murderer's fricasseeing Brooke Shields in the office. You know.
Well, Mrs. Tredoni, I mean, the only reason why she ends up killing the priest is because he refuses their communion after she thinks she's doing the work of God. In her mind, she's thinking she's doing the work of God, and that's why she kills the priest.
This
because
movie gets
in her
convoluted
mind,
really quick.
but in her mind, this is how she thinks, that she's doing the work of God.
And these are the best villains. You know, it goes back. Vincent Price said the best villains he ever played were the ones who, in their minds, were completely justified in what they were doing.
Because they felt they were right. Yeah. I don't know if I'm not going to go a little bit mainstream. I'm sorry if I do. But have you ever watched? It's a series, and I like it. It's American Horror Story Asylum.
Oh gosh, yes.
It's my favorite season of American Horror Story. And the main character, Sister Jude, kind of reminds me of that because she's kind of like, again, the runaway, becoming a nun because she's killed. She thinks she killed a girl. And suddenly she's doing the work of God to punish these people, but at the same time to adjust them by the power of God. It's kind of, I can see kind of she lives with the guilt. And then that's her punishment to be a nun. So she can't do, singing and alcohol. And she was terrible back in the day. But she's kind of like, now that's my call. She thinks that's her call, because of trying to, keep the people in the asylum and punish them and just show them the right way to live. And there's a kind of like, I can see like a sort of, maybe I will stretch, I'm stretching a little bit this, but kind of like the comparison with this movie when the girl is taken to the, sort of asylum to be cured because she might have killed the sister, and then it kind of feels like the same way in American Horror Story Asylum, where they kind of like there's a lot of people who are innocent, but they are taken there. I don't know, just a comparison might not be.
I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, Maria Olson, was on that season of American Horror Story, and I remember her asking me to write something for her to play as a lead. And I don't know, I've never seen any American Horror Story, though I keep saying I want to. I remember her asking me, and I did the research but never got around to writing it, a screenplay for her where she would be playing a woman named Amelia Dyer, who in the 1800s was known as the Angel Maker. She ran an orphanage, and what she would do is the children of the poor families, she would slowly poison and dispose of the bodies, and the families, the children of the more well-off families who kept paying, they would, she would take better care of them because that was the income to keep. And I wonder now, and she also felt the way she had her young daughter helping her out, and the way she told her daughter is that we're doing God's work because God needs these little angels up there with him because they'll have better lives up there with him. And I'm wondering now that you're talking about American Horror Story Asylum, if that's the reason she wanted to do it.
There was something similar in the, I don't want to do any spoiler, but spoiler alert, there we go. Where there was in the story, there was this horrible Nazi scientist experimenting on some of the people in the asylum, and suddenly the people disappeared, and you don't know what they are. And then there's a kind of contrast of the man of science who's actually crazy and a Nazi and a horrible person.
Right.
And in contrast, you have Sister Jude, who's trying to figure out why the bodies are disappearing, why the people are disappearing, and she hates the Nazi. And then there's a whole fight between the two. Let's not get too much into detail because this is a spoiler, but I don't know, just something interesting.
Hey, Joe,
I love that season. That's my favorite American Horror Story.
I love American
100%.
Horror Story no matter what. Roanoke kind of sucked balls, I thought, but other than that, I loved every season it had. Joe, I think I found an answer for that Psycho poster. It said that there were multiple references. A Psycho poster can be seen in the background in one scene. Aunt Annie's stabbing on the staircase is designed to resemble the shower murder, and the music imitates Bernard Herman's score in some moments. And there's also a Psycho poster at the railway station.
So maybe, I mean, yeah, there's
It was on purpose.
There's obvious references to Psycho, but I just wasn't sure if it just happened that the poster was there, or if the poster being there was intentional. Maybe it was. Maybe he had a poster up and just taped it up there, and then as soon as shooting was done, they took it down.
Good catch, though, because I totally forgot about that.
Interestingly enough, though, that Brooke Shields' acting has pretty much stayed the same her whole career.
I guess I'm not that familiar with Brooke Shields' acting, so.
She acts the same in Blue Lagoon and Endless Love, same acting.
Gosh, she was just a kid, though. I mean,
She did the in the middle, the TV series The Middle. She played she never was a good actress. She never developed into anything, did she? Poor thing.
What was the thing that was so controversial? What were the jeans? What jeans did she wear in the 80s? Everybody's freaking out about.
Guess.
Was it Guess?
Yeah, I think she was Guess.
She did the topless photo shoots, but she had her back to us though, so I don't understand why that was controversial.
Because she was 15.
I tell you what was controversial is that when Culture Club came out with their first album, everyone thought that was Brooke Shields on the cover, but it was actually Boy George.
She couldn't have been 15 in the 80s because she was 12 when she made this. So in the 80s, she must have been an adult by then.
She was 16 in the Blue Lagoon. That came out in 1980, I believe.
Yeah.
15 or 16.
When did the Guess stuff happen?
Those were in the early 70s, like mid to
late 70s, early 80s.
All right. So maybe all right. So I got my timeline off.
I did too. But yeah, because it was a big deal. She had the white blousey shirt on but you could, and her legs were out like this sometimes. I mean, clearly her mother didn't care if they placed her in provocative poses.
I mean, I was just gonna say, you're gonna complain about her Guess jean spots when she was fully nude at the age of 12 in Louis Malle's Pretty Baby.
That's right. Full
frontal at 12 years old. So compared to that, the Guess jean stuff was not a big deal.
Right.
But yeah, she was. For some reason, I always get her confused with Jennifer Connelly. Maybe it's because they kind of look alike.
No, they both had bushy eyebrows.
Yeah, that too.
Hey, those eyebrows! Everybody wanted her eyebrows back in the day.
And they were both nude in movies when they were underage. Because although Jennifer Connelly, it's only the back. She gets. She's naked in Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in America. She was only, I think, 14 at the time.
How old was Brooke? She was 12 and Pretty. Yeah,
she was 12.
Pretty Baby.
She was 12 when she made Pretty Baby, or was it when she made it, or was it when it was released?
Why did they allow?
It was made in 78.
Well, in the case of both those movies, they were both Once Upon a Time in America was Italian produced.
Right.
Pretty Baby was French produced, I think. So that's.
Well, another thing is that when this stuff is happening, whether it's Jodie Foster and Little Girl Lived Down Lane or all this stuff, people weren't going to see the movies because they were going to jack off to a pre-puberty. It's only like because of music, video, VHS, and release that people, and I'm just going to say, I don't know how many people actually probably were jacking off the Blue Lagoon on video. Probably nobody. But when you get little suburban mom with a blonde bob going, oh my God, this is what's happening. And then you get this kind of great big frenzy out of it. Oh my God, this is horrible. People are like jacking off to Brooke Shields and Pretty Baby. What's gonna happen? Oh my God. And it's probably no one. That's the thing, is probably no one's doing it.
Not in the kind of theaters Pretty Baby was playing in, no.
No. But I'm just in there saying that even at home, I doubt people probably are. No. You know what I mean? It's like, because but that's what people do. That's what middle America. This is how your social media, not your social media, but this is how your your social conscious of society dictates to us.
I didn't know.
It's a bit like the James Bolger case with Child's Play 3. It's like they saw Child's Play 3, so they went out and took this 5-year-old and sat there and sexually molested them and murdered them and chopped them up. These two 8-year-olds, Come to find out, it started as a video nasty scare here. Come to find out, these kids never even saw Child's Play 3. This was just something that people ran with.
That's
And
sort
it
of
was
like the Slender Man thing that they had going here. People were killed by one of their
Well,
friends.
it's your
Just sacrificed
Karens.
the Slender Man.
But it's your Karens in the world that sit there and dictate this kind of crap. You know, the same kind of person goes, "Oh, don't do nativity scenes in a school because it upsets the Muslims." The Muslims go like, "We're not upset. No one asked us." You know, because it's someone like coming up with these ideas. So
the middle ground, at least in that case, would be let every religion do their own display, and then this goes away. And it should be either all of them do or none of them do. You can't be like this. This group gets to do it. This group doesn't.
I think that I think if someone's going to be offended, I think I don't think that people should be offended for the group of people. I think the group of people should come out and say they're being offended. I know here, for instance, they said that nativity plays can't be there because Muslims are offended. Come to find out, when they asked the Muslim people here, they weren't offended. They loved it because their children got to play Jesus and Mary, and their kids were ended up being in the play, and they didn't have a problem with it. It was some white person being offended for them, and that's the problem.
I'm a very
if they're offended, it's different.
I'm a very staunch atheist, and I to me, I don't see you celebrating your religion as shoving it down my throat. I see if you come out and tell me I have to live by the rules of your religion, fuck you. That's where the line should be. You do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Just don't try to pass laws to dictate what I am allowed or not allowed to do based on your religion. Like, we don't believe in sex before marriage. I believe that's the best fucking sex you can have. So,
well, if they don't want to have sex before marriage, I don't want to fuck them anyway. So what's the problem?
Exactly. Like, dude, do your thing. Don't try to pass a law to dictate what I should do, and we're fine.
Precisely.
I don't care if you put up a nativity scene. The reason I don't think that stuff belongs on like a courthouse is because I don't want the law or the legislature to be able to tell me that, well, this law is based on the 10 Commandments. I don't give a fuck about your 10 Commandments. The only important ones on there are, don't steal, don't kill, which I think everybody agrees to. So, yeah, you want to put your thing on, your home, you want to decorate it with Christmas lights, whatever, do whatever you want. Just don't try to push it on me. And I am fine with that.
I just think to this, like, if something offends you, don't watch it. Plain and simple.
That's also true.
If something offends you, just don't watch it. Turn it off.
Which is
just because then don't tell me what I should be offended by. If I'm offended by something, I'll let you know.
Which is part of the problem I have with modern movies is that we'll hear like, oh, they had to cut this part out because if we don't cut this out, then the government in China is going to be pissed. Well, I don't give a shit what they think. Don't watch the movie, or don't. And this is goes into why are we making movies where we have to make $1 billion just to break even? Because now we're getting everything watered down so that everything has to be able to play everywhere. And what ends up happening is you have this fast food cinema that doesn't make a point, isn't really able to make any real it doesn't have any real purpose, it doesn't have any real art. And what you end up doing is you end up with poor John Cena, who says Taiwan is a country, then having to do a video where he looks like a fucking hostage, apologizing to China. And
fuck China. But Brooke Shields actually just had a Rolling Stone article just came out where they say she bravely confronts her own childhood sexual exploitation. And I was trying to go through it real quick while everybody muted, but it's about the kiss with David Carradine for the first time. She didn't know what to do with any of that in Pretty Babies. It's like, what the fuck, So I mean, it's an interesting article.
Well, but at the same time, she can't blame the film. She needs to blame her parents. If her parents weren't living off her, I wouldn't be doing it.
She said
exactly. Her parents signed off on her parents, if anything, are to blame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as I see it, the thing is a lot of things depend on context anyway, and how things are in the context of the film. Now, to be honest, I mean, I tell you, the one film I've never been really offended by film, but the only film that I actually was offended by was Larry Clark's Kids.
What was it?
And
Kids.
I found that
I didn't see it.
it's basically a bunch of teenagers having sex with each other and basically running, very, very provocative. And then they are kids. And I thought,
So these are all minors doing this.
Oh yeah, this is about
movie?
the '90s and stuff like this, and to be honest, at that time, the art critics were saying this is art. This is the most artistic film and self-expression.
Well, I'm going to go there and say that I've always wondered
And-
why Hollywood had a thing for pedophilia and little kids. They do. You can't deny it. But I guess it just depends on who it is.
Well, I think it all depends on the context of what it's used for.
Exactly.
Like the little girl down who lives down the lane, for instance, is not used as a way to let's
No.
stimulate the male members,
No.
or
No.
stimulate.
And it's,
So
it's
so
all-
so it works in the context of that, because basically this is about two people, and basically they're comforting each other, and he's just trying to keep them warm, and this might be her first sexual experience, or maybe who knows, but
I
in
didn't
that-
find
in the
that
context.
offensive at all in that scene. I thought it was kind of
And if you watch,
actually,
but if you watch Pretty Baby and Brooke Shields, it's like fine. Even in Blue Lagoon is fine as well, because basically it's,
natural love, they say.
well, it kind of flows with it. Now, if something happens and then you see something and you got a scene in there that doesn't fit within the script, but it's just in there for gratuitous reasons, then that's a bit different. But at the same time, you got to look at the way things are in content. I mean,
well,
today, Taxi Driver would be considered offensive.
meanwhile,
Oh, they could never make that film now. You couldn't make this film now. You couldn't make Little Girl Live Down the Lane now. You can't do it.
The thing about and the thing Keith's talking about with context, in the context of The Little Girl Who Lived Down the Lane, yes, one of the main characters is a pedophile, but he's clearly the villain of the movie.
But I mean, that kind of draws the line, though. Was she kind of a villain? You don't know. And then you got this old crazy lady in Alice, Sweet Alice. This is about mental problems too. Clearly brought on probably by her religion, I have to say.
Oh, definitely by
Catholic.
religion.
But the question basically is, if you're watching this film, are you going to sit there and become anti-Catholic, or are you going to sit there and think that basically you're going to turn into Mrs. Trudoti and start killing people because they think they're sin? No, you're not. You might get one stupid fucker out in the world might do that, but
yeah,
hey, that's one stupid person amongst billions and billions of people. And you, got you can't make everything because of that one nothing.
Right.
I've been watching slasher movies since I was 7 years old, and you cannot, I haven't murdered anyone that anyone knows about.
I've been watching Disney films, and I'm not sitting there singing and hoping that the rodents will come in and clean my freaking house.
I am. How about you? But I would like the animals to come and clean my house.
That's the thing. People talk about like how this stuff affects you, and like Keith said, there's a very small minority, one or two people here or there that might do something stupid based on that. But are we going to condemn all art because of that?
Well, that's like Tipper Gore back in the 90s when she tried to get everybody to get rid of rock and roll, or we're all playing it backwards to get the satanic message.
And to be honest, the worst thing about this sort of thing, when she's saying that, none of us even thought about playing a record backwards until she said it.
That.
And then we start playing it backwards, burning our turntables. But maybe that was the thing all along. But at the same time, saying, it's a bit like some of the most controversial films are the most crappiest films in the world anyway. And because they're controversial, I have to see this now because it's controversial. And then you walk away going, what a piece of shit that was. What did I just?
Yeah.
I can't believe I just spent my time watching this.
It's very
Reindeer
rare that
Witches,
those
people are
movies
freaking
are good.
out about that right now. There's a lot of people are pissed about AMC putting their witches on. It's like, big deal. Don't watch it.
But sometimes I'm wondering if to make something a bit more controversial makes it more viewable.
I mean, if you're going to complain about witches, or I don't hear you complaining about Macbeth. Is it because these people never read Macbeth?
I didn't see him complaining about Hocus Pocus.
There were people complaining about Hocus Pocus.
Yeah, they were.
Were
Yeah,
there?
Yeah, they were.
This last release, there were people. There was this woman who said you were letting your children watch this, you're letting demons into your home.
The singing, it's the music. The music was demonic.
Oh, go away.
I mean, I'm
You
offended by
know?
Greta. I'm offended by Greta Thunberg, but I don't think they should take her off television.
Yeah, don't get me going.
I feel like, look.
I'm offended by Harry and Meghan. I'm not being, but like, if they want to be on TV, they're allowed
People
to.
want to watch them, let them. I'm not going to.
Precisely.
Someone else might want to.
Unless the things, you're doing directly affect, then I don't care. I mean, I'm probably not going to watch this witches show on AMC, but it's because I have no interest in. I have plenty of movies if I want to watch something about witches. I
just like her books. That's the only reason I'm
looking forward to Mayfair Witches. I mean, because it's one of my favorite books by Anne Rice. I'm interested in that. But same thing is what you're saying. If you don't like it, don't watch it.
That's right. Just don't watch it.
I mean, I'm not interested in reality stars basically going on like X on the Beach, for instance. So basically they can sit there and have them like sex with each other and pretend that they are somebody even though they're nobody. Or the Kardashians. I'm not into them either. I don't understand the conversation, but I'm not, I don't expect them to be taken off the air because I'm offended by it.
Right.
Exactly. If you don't like it, just don't watch it. If something isn't for you, if you can't stomach extremely gory horror movies, don't watch them. If you can't stomach the idea, I mean, this is what brought about the Hays Code in the 30s. Is people going, well, I don't like this, therefore it shouldn't exist. No, I don't like it, therefore I'm not going to watch it. I stopped watching Marvel movies for a couple of years now because I just got tired of them. You're never going to hear me say they shouldn't exist.
No.
Because
I love Marvel still, but I'm kind of getting bored with their newer films that have become out. I won't deny it.
I'm never going to say I don't like it, therefore you shouldn't watch it. Unless somebody was harmed in the making of it and it was intentional. Obviously, big fucking stance here. Obviously, child porn needs to go away. Obviously. Like that shouldn't exist. But that's because there isn't because there's people in there who aren't willing participants who are of age to make a decision for themselves to do it. That's the something where somebody gets intentionally murdered. Obviously, yes, that if you
it depends who it is. If it's someone like
but I'm like, if nobody got hurt. It's just art. Just don't watch it if you don't like it. There's a lot of movies I don't watch, and
I would watch Sam Smith get killed because I think he's fucking annoying. But
there's any producers out there who'd like to fund Keith's project.
Death to Sam Smith. but it's like
I don't know.
This movie's been referenced all the way from Showboat, Psycho, Hoodlum Priest, Don't Look Now was inspired. That raincoat was inspired by the red raincoat in Don't Look Now. The Intruder, that's where you get the mask laying in a pile of masks. Mimic, the death scene of the character named Dom, remember him, Spages in Communion, was referenced almost similarly in the death scene of the Chinese priest. I mean, a lot of people use this thing over and over. Well, they did to draw parallels with other movies. So they were thinking about, they got their ideas. I mean, there's a lot of them in here that they drew parallels with.
But
Don't Look Now.
Our conversation we're just talking about has basically to do with isn't that what Mrs. Tredoni was doing when she's killing everyone because she's offended by everyone's sin and saying that this shouldn't be happening.
Offended by their lack of reverence and respect
and if you look at her, I guess she can sit there and say how organizations can sit there and dictate what you see and what you can't see because they might find it offensive. So therefore, they need to be speaking voice first.
I find offensive. Joe brought it up. It's the fact that this is before Vatican II. My parents were married in 1958. My dad was Presbyterian. Mom was Catholic. They could not get married on the altar. They had to be a step below the altar because fuck that.
Yeah, exactly. That's bullshit. That's bullshit.
Yeah. Sorry, Ma, if you're listening to this, I never agreed with it when you told me.
Well, I'm the reason why my parents got married, so we know that wasn't a white wedding.
Can I just say something? So I've been writing some notes because I've got something. Obviously, I don't completely disagree with what you're saying about the fact that obviously, if something is done as a movie and it's not intended to offend someone, obviously that's not a problem. And obviously, also if you don't like something, you don't watch it. Obviously, but my question also is maybe it's just a challenging thought. How is the culture and people are affected by cinema? And I'm saying this, let me explain what I mean. So I'm a person who grew up with Disney movies, and obviously we grew up, we see the the Disney princesses and the happy fairy tales and Once Upon a Time and Happily Ever After, etc., etc. When we grew up and we understand that life is not black and white and it's more complicated, there's no Prince Charming coming to save you. However, in my blueprint in my mind, there is a little bit of Disney princesses and fairy tales imprinted in my head, in my subconscious. Even the fact that I chose not to be Catholics, and there are certain teachings in the Catholicism who are imprinted in myself anyway, because obviously when you are very, very young, you're like a sponge, you absorb everything you're taught. So, whatever, education, friends, experiences of life affect you somehow. So my question is how movies affect people. Obviously, depends. So if you're a balanced person, like an adult, like we are, hopefully we are. And
not very balanced, but we
enough,
do a good display.
We try, yeah, exactly. I mean, we try. And then we kind of analyze things from a rational perspective. So we see the goods, we see the bads, we analyze the whole thing. We understand that that's a movie, that's a product of the society and the period of the time. So we understand the perspective, etc. So my question is, just to give you an example, when you mention Hocus Pocus and saying that some people get offended, obviously you have maybe some Christian sects or extremists who are saying, oh my God, this is demonic. You might have also Wiccan groups to say, oh, that's not the correct depiction, for example, or Wiccan, for example. Or, there could be, I'll give you another example, Charmed, the TV show. I love Charmed, right? I grew up with Charmed. Charmed is these days will be very wrong to depict what Wicca is about. Also, it was very politically incorrect back in the days. Obviously, it's a product of the period of the time.
Technically, they're witches. They're not Wiccans because...
Yeah. It's slightly different. But then...
But what you have to look at, people are going to be offended no matter what.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Of course, yes.
And you're never going to keep everyone happy, and you never will make everyone happy.
Of course.
No.
And to be honest, some people are just going to bitch for the sake of bitching because that's what people do.
No, but
and just because, and the thing is, okay, when you're a child and you're watching something, okay, the thing is, okay, now there's a very thin line, basically, of what a child can see and what might be offensive to a child, because, yeah, okay, you can sit there and say that Halloween might be offensive to a 7 or 8 year old, but at the same time, the 7 and 8 year old are watching news footage that's probably a lot more graphic on a daily basis. So I think what you need to do is you need to measure. But the thing is, anytime that anyone sees a film or reads a book or watches a theater play or whatever like this, and they think this is reality, and they think that this is a template how to live their life, the problem is not society. The problem is the individual. And if that individual cannot separate reality or fantasy, that's the problem, the individual. But that's not my job to sit there and make sure that everything is edited and situated for this one person who's on La La Land.
But I'm going to challenge that for you, say not because that's wrong, but let me continue what I was saying.
Of course, I'm not wrong. How dare you?
Because I'm doing like step by step, because I've wrote down the whole little thing while you. So specifically for Charmed, right? Obviously the old Charmed, the one I grew up with, and I love it. Obviously there was a lot of things that I like, and obviously there's a lot of things that these days could be considered politically correct. Even
these days might be politically incorrect today doesn't mean they're going to be politically incorrect tomorrow.
No. But let me get to the point. So there were certain things, like for example, one of the three sisters dressing up in Asian clothes, and some people these days would say, "Oh, that's cultural appropriation." But then you have the opposite reaction with the newest Charmed reboot. It's so heavily politically correct that gets
I
very
can't
boring.
watch it.
It's too much. I liked it, but it's too much.
I don't
It's
do
too
that
heavy.
bullshit. I don't know who
It's
it is.
heavy. But then let me get to the final point. My final point is it, again, what I was asking earlier, this is the wondering, is it cinema affecting people or people affecting cinema? Because these days, movies like TV shows like Charmed reboot, it's amazing because it's so politically correct. From my perspective, I don't think I'm very well balanced. I do try, but for me, I can see that way it's a bit too much. But some other people think, it works, and in fact, a lot of people liked it. It was decently successful.
Yeah, but the thing is,
do you exactly see what the point is?
I know what you're saying.
They're making the movies for those people because that's the new. This is how their culture is evolving.
But the thing is
and this is the direction.
But what you're finding is that they're making things for these people, like the new Queer as Folk is another example of this. The Powerpuff Girls, they redid this in the same kind of fashion. And what you're finding out is that they're making them, but no one's watching them. They're not coming out with second or third seasons. They're coming out with movies like this, and people are not going to see them.
Yeah.
When they do all this, and so therefore, like, okay, they might be making it because this is what they think that people want to see, and this is what people want to do. But the problem is that people are not, if they're not making their money back, and people are not putting their ass on the seat and paying their dollar to go see this, they're not going to laugh.
I see what you mean.
What you're doing.
And what you're finding is that these shows are being canceled over and over again because no one's watching them. No matter how much controversy they're getting.
Yes.
Again, agreeing with Davide's point is, what I basically said about, why are we, catering movies to be this broad? Because when you make movies and TV shows this broad, so you don't offend anybody, you end up with very watered down movies and very watered down television,
like Marvel is becoming now, basically.
like Marvel.
Marvel's got really woke, though. I mean, they're going very that way instead of being. I liked it when they were.
Let's take it.
Why do we have to go one way or the other? Why can't we?
I think the problem basically is like what you need to do. Like, let's sit there and say there's not enough black movies being made, right? So what you need to do is you got to make sure that if you're going to make black movies, you got to make sure that they are ones that everyone's going to enjoy.
Yeah.
Because, or if you're going to make gay movies or something like this, because again, you don't want things, and there's nothing wrong with making something, if you're going to pigeonhole things in one way, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to make more of these, and you are supporting these causes, whether it's gay, black, or Asian, or whatever you want to stand behind, then when they make that stuff for you, if you want them to continue to make things this way, you better start buying your ticket and putting your ass on the seat and making sure you go and buy it and see it. Because if you don't, because at the end of the day, this is a business. We're here to make money. If we're not making money, we're not going to be doing it anymore.
I'm gonna challenge. Oh, sorry. You go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
I was gonna say that's my big problem with people who complain that all we see in movie theaters now are Marvel movies, Star Wars, and these big budget tentpole movies. Whenever I go see a movie that's a more independent film, I'm the only one in the theater.
I've been there, Joe. I feel ya.
Stop complaining about it. Start paying to go see it, and also. You talk about wanting to see more more movies that when we did La Cage aux Folles and The Birdcage, those are great examples of movies that are gay movies, pro-gay rights movies that also appeal to a broader audience.
Yes, it's like Victor Victoria is one of my favoriteest movies ever. I love all those movies. They have a lot to offer. They really do, and they have a sympathetic. They do tend to make things a little sympathetic for the characters. I think it's more engaging.
But the thing is, no matter what cause you're trying to shove down people's throats or whatever you're doing, the thing is, though, you need to be clever about it. Because as soon as you're pointing your finger and yelling at someone and going, da 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 da, your mind shuts off. But you can be clever about it. And if you make a movie that's got wonderful characters, who are very, they can be whatever you want them to be, however diverse you want them to be, but you got to give them an interesting story. You got to make sure they're interesting people. You got to make sure that you feel something for them. And to be honest, and then you can get your same message across, because the Twilight Zone did it for 7 years on American television in black and white. We're able to get this diversity and everything across in a way that basically everyone wanted to see it. And you can do it without shoving it down people's throats.
William Wellman was doing that in the 1930s. If you watch Heroes for Sale or Wild Boys of the Road or any of those movies, there are very specific messages about how we treat our veterans, how we treat the poor, how we treat the homeless. There's a lot of that in there, but it's put through in a way that even if you don't, it can get the point across without when I was learning screenwriting, stay away from things that are on the nose.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of movies now are on the nose because they feel like they have to make sure that you understand that my position is this. You can make in your writing, you can find a way to make the message murky.
Yes.
And still get your point across. Like this movie, there's
and have
never
a sympathetic audience.
With Alice, Sweet Alice, there's never a point where anybody ever says that this old woman is a victim herself of the systemic, guilt of Catholicism.
Oh my God, no kidding. Don't even get going on that.
Another thing I think that's very, very important to remember is that the thing is, it's like children. People are like children. And if you want a child to do what you want them to say, you don't talk down like this. And how are you doing, little Johnny? But if you talk to them like
customer
an adult,
service talk,
and you treat them like an adult, people get the point. And so, and you need to treat people like they're adults. You need to treat people like they're intelligent. Don't treat people like they're stupid. Because as soon as you treat someone like they're stupid, your mind. If I treated you like you're stupid right now, your mind's going to shut off. Yeah. But if I talk to you like an intelligent person, we can exchange ideas, and maybe both of both of our minds
lacking in the conversations these days. It really is.
Be like Jodie Foster, the little girl who lives down the lane. She will bring herself down to talk to somebody at their level, but not talk down to them.
Precisely.
Davide, I had cut you off when you were trying to say something.
You were going to challenge something.
Yes. What's next on that little notebook of yours, David?
No, because I've had a great idea that the last time we did the podcast, I was talking and I had things to say, maybe not the right time, and I forgot about them. Now I'm writing everything down, but I'm still forgetting a couple of things because I'm writing.
Jump in there and speak your piece, buddy.
But yeah, and another. I don't know if you watched another TV show that I got into. So as I'm myself not so much into LGBT culture TV shows, not too much. For example, one of the TV show I used to watch was, I don't know if you know, RuPaul's Drag Race, but then I got bored.
I love RuPaul, but then he got weird on me.
It become very watered down, and now it's...
I found it offensive.
Oh, really? Okay. Go ahead, Ryan.
No, I find it offensive because it's like, God forbid, is there any gay person who had a fucking happy childhood? Because they're all fucking miserable. Oh, my mom didn't love me enough. My dad didn't love me enough. And next thing you know, their mom and dad are in the audience. I'm like, okay, well, obviously they got over it or whatever. Oh, people are not accepting me for who I am. People are not.
I don't.
They're screaming. Well, I can't even accept you because you're screaming. I mean, it's like, come on. It's like, why do you have to have a prom story to be on a show?
Right.
Yeah, that's the problem.
But that goes for everybody, though.
That they choose the certain type of people just because that what makes audience. So if they make a character that doesn't have anything, that doesn't make a TV. So
anytime I'm watching some kind of game show or whatever that has real people in it, and to be honest, once they start in with their sob story, I'm just like, I start laughing, and of course it upsets everyone I live with because I'm laughing at them. Because it's like, oh God, it's like, why? It's like,
because then what the end
of the day, it's like, if I would, I guess this is how I look at it. It's like, okay, we've all had difficult times in our lives. Okay, life is like that. Life is never going to be a zippity doo dah hunky dory day. Okay,
They're
life
not.
is, and to be honest, if you didn't have your difficulties to get through life anyway, you're going to be a boring person. So that makes you more interesting. But if I'm going on to something, because I have a talent, I rather win because of my talent, not because of my sob story backstory.
Oh no, but I agree. I totally agree. But then
Oh, my
the
mom
drama
didn't
makes
love it
TV. But the drama makes TV.
But even the Oscars have found themselves in this predicament because
Again?
you have this has been going on forever with the Oscars where you end up getting the emotional kind of payback award. Like Martin Scorsese finally gets Best Picture and Best Director for The Departed because they feel like, well, we should have given it to him 25 years ago. We never did. Because we were busy paying back another director who we feel we should have given it to 25 years prior.
I don't really watch award shows anymore because I can't stand any of them when they get up and do their little speech. It's like, shut up.
You end up in this endless cycle though of people being basically the Thalberg Award the entire night because you're like this year. Everyone's talking about, Jamie Lee Curtis finally got an Oscar nomination. Maybe they'll give it to her. But at the same time,
for what?
Maybe what did she get nominated for? Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say Halloween Kills. I'm going,
I'll give it to her.
I'm disappointed at Halloween Kills not getting enough Razzie nominations. But then on the other
Halloween Ends.
On the other end of it, Halloween Ends. On the other end of it, you have people going, "Oh, this might be Angela Bassett's year because she should have been winning them for years anyway." But it's like, at what point do we just look at the single year and the single work that they're being nominated for and go, "No, they should get it for this movie at this time"?
Yes.
Honestly,
to be honest, the interesting thing is I find the Golden Globes and the People's Choice Awards a lot more interesting than the Oscars because the Oscars are political. Because it's all people that's all the people who are involved in that industry.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of these, and when you ever get anything involved in any industry, and we all been in the work environment. I mean, I work for the NHS and I know, basically it's like, if you all know the secret handshake, chances are they're going to be employed of the year. So it's like, okay, even though they may have never done anything, but it's like, okay, well, whatever. And, I do appreciate the Oscars, but I do find it weird that a lot of Oscar movies and people who win in these Oscars and stuff like this very rarely end up being in films that become your favorites that you want to return to time and time again. There are a few that do, but if you look at all the winners, I mean, we mentioned it before. I mean, we cover, most of the films that we cover haven't won Oscars, but we love them.
Dude, I mean, the biggest one to me is King Kong. 90 years later, we're still talking about King Kong. Who the fuck's talking about Cavalcade? Which won Best Picture? Nobody talks about these movies.
We're doing The Color Purple next week, but no one's talking about Trip to Wonderful. Who's ever the one talked to Trip to Wonderful? That won the Oscar.
Well, Color Purple did get Oscars though.
It was snubbed pretty much. It was snubbed.
Was it really? It's an excellent.
I think Quincy Jones won one for music or something.
Right.
A lot of times, 2000, in 2001, people are putting, Mulholland Drive was in Sight and Sound's list of the best movies ever made and made it into the top 10. Didn't get nominated for Best Picture in 2001. Meanwhile, what won that year? Which again, not a bad movie. Whatever won that year. I think it might have been A Beautiful Mind, which isn't a bad movie, but it's not anywhere near as good as Mulholland Drive.
Trisha Tomei and My Cousin Vinny.
Who was the director of Mulholland Drive?
David Lynch.
David Lynch, okay.
And David Lynch he got his Oscar for Elephant Man, and after that they kind of were embarrassed after that about him.
I mean, for
whatever reason.
Raging Bull should have won for Scorsese in 1980, and it didn't. And we still talk about Raging Bull. What even won Best Picture that year? I don't even know. Like off the top of my head, I'd have to look it up. And it'll probably be something I'll be like, oh yeah, I saw it and it was okay, but it's not going to be on that level. And it's because we have this stupid idea that we have to keep, hey, this person.
You're right. Why don't they settle on that year and that year alone? Focus. It would
Because they
solve a
feel
lot
like-
of problems.
They feel like we owe it to this person who we've snubbed in the past.
Well, that's what the Lifetime Achievement Award's for.
Yeah, exactly. But they yeah.
There are plenty of people who are great actors who've never won an Oscar ever in their life.
Yeah.
And they have long careers.
Alfred Hitchcock never won Best Director.
No.
Best Picture once, but that went to David O. Selznick for producing.
Right.
Yeah, for Rebecca.
For Rebecca, yeah.
That was a great movie. That really
You
was
know?
a great movie.
But I mean, think of North by Northwest, Vertigo,
Another great movie.
Echo, never, not even nominated.
Yeah, that was criminal. That really was. It really was.
You know?
And there's a lot of cases like that. And I think honestly, you know,
Well, they're
everybody
snobs. Just look like Mia Goth. Don't tell me that girl does not deserve a nomination.
I was going to get to that. I was like, 20 years from now, people are still going to look back at Pearl and think, "Holy shit, this is one of the greatest horror movies ever made." Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I don't think
was
right
insane.
now everybody's talking about it, but Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is not going to age well. 20 years from now. No, as much as I like the movie now and I like the message of acceptance in the movie, 20 years from now, people are going to see it as on the nose. Some of the humor is too cringy, but I Banshees of Inisherin.
Chances are, in 20 years' time, it might be considered offensive. In 20 years' time, the way things are going,
It might
who knows?
It might be.
So, you know.
And then, which is another point about going back and looking at things from other eras and going, well, it's offensive now. I can't judge something made in the 1930s by my morality now, because there's
It's almost as if you're trying to cancel history.
But it's almost like we're there right now, though, because look at Freaks. I mean, look at that movie Freaks, 1932. That's pretty fucked up movie, but I love it. You know?
But it's also Freaks is making the opposite point that the people who wanted to censor it at the time was making. Because
the freaks aren't the circus freaks. The freaks are the normal people.
Exactly, and the normal people who want to exploit them are the villains.
Exactly.
And if you had thought about that, you wouldn't have, tried to destroy Todd Browning's career over this movie.
Yes.
And to be honest, the people who are trying to destroy his career never actually saw the movie to begin with.
Exactly.
Most likely.
I mean, if you look at some people, like when people are going on about any kind of film, and you've asked these people if they've seen this film, and most of them they haven't. They're jumping on a bandwagon for a film. Like, look at films that go, "Oh, this film is controversial. I'm not going to go see this. Oh my God, I'm so offended by it." And the film hasn't even been released yet.
Well, maybe
they're
you
going
need
by
to go
what everyone
see
else
it.
is saying. So what does that tell you?
Maybe you need to go see it so that way you can have an informed opinion on why you don't like it.
Have you ever watched a movie when they came out of I think it was from Dan Brown, the Da Vinci Code?
I watched all of
that became so controversial in Italy. There was a news at some point. I was so shocked that some people with a church priest, whatever, started burning and make a big fire in front of a church, burning all the books from Dan Brown. I'm thinking, this is a flipping novel. Why are you burning books? This is fucking medieval. And that happened in Italy.
The people who burn books are never the good guys, by the way. Historically.
No.
But I remember
the thing is with the Da Vinci Code it's coming out with what if anybody reads the Apocrypha, like not the one that's sort of included in the Bible, Mary Magdalene and Jesus had a very big time relationship. They probably still have a bloodline. But people don't want to think of Jesus Christ as a man.
Jesus was gay. He was gay.
Rabbis.
Why else would he surround himself with 12 men?
Rabbis used to have to be married. Just saying.
What was the? It might have been the Da Vinci Code, because that would have been around the time.
Judas gave him a French kiss.
There was one. My girlfriend at the time, her stepfather's mother was like one of those people that was like picketing the Da Vinci Code.
Oh, people lost their minds.
And when I asked her what's wrong with it, she said because it makes fun of Jesus. And I'm like,
no.
Does it?
No.
It just puts Jesus in the light that Jesus was a man.
Have you actually seen this movie? Because it doesn't make fun of Jesus at all.
Not at all. Not at all.
You haven't actually seen it. You got whipped into a frenzy, and you're yelling about it. when you haven't actually seen. Go watch the movie. You're gonna find none of what you're complaining about.
You want to see something that's gonna raise a lot of ire. The Last Temptation of Christ. That will definitely shut down a Catholic town.
And look, I love Martin Scorsese. I was bored for a lot of that movie.
I didn't think it was that fun either.
Overall, I liked it.
Overall,
I think it's a very good movie.
Well, what about that Mel Gibson Jesus porn film?
Oh,
The Passion of the Christ.
I mean, God, what was that all about?
That was a Jesus snuff film. That's all that was. That made you almost anti-Semitic by the time you left the theater.
Which knowing Mel Gibson.
We know what happened to Mel Gibson afterwards. He went mad afterwards, so obviously that wasn't good for him.
Knowing Mel Gibson's anti-Semitism, that might have been the point.
Well, holy shit! That was a Jesus stuff film. I've never seen anybody beaten so much through a movie in my entire movie watching days.
But let's be honest, though. This is a bit like this is how screwed up people are, because like Judas is a bad man. Right, but you need Judas for Jesus to be crucified, and if you don't have Jesus crucified, you don't have the whole moral, have the thing. Jesus has to die, because that's what has to happen.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
You need the person to turn him in. You need that bad person or whatever to happen. Without Judas, so at the end of the day, was Judas a dick? No, God's a dick. Because God set all this up, right?
Right.
When we do our Batman podcast, we talk about the reason Batman is such a great hero is because he has so many great villains to play off of.
Exactly.
And
Jesus needed him a villain besides the Roman legions. So.
But the thing is, you need this stuff to happen, because at the end of the day, if Jesus isn't crucified, then basically you got no one who's dying for your sins, and basically you don't have to there's no such thing as Christians anymore. You need that to happen.
And then I'll have to go to hell, like the nuns told me for the last 10 years of my parochial school career.
But at the same time, the same people who are going against the Vinci Code still think that Jesus is white. So go figure that one out.
Yeah, that's true. They think Jesus he looks like Jeffrey fucking Hunter. No, he didn't.
No, he looked like Robert.
Like Jeffrey Hunter.
He looked like Robert Powell. but at the same time, thinking like, if Jesus was white and Herod's going after, go after the white kid, because he'd be easy to find. He's like running around Israel, the little white kid, little ginger white kid running around, be sunburned.
Have you guys seen the meme of somebody shared a picture of like his grandmother's mantle, and they got a picture of Ewan McGregor in Star Wars Episode 1 framed on the mantle because his grandmother thinks it's Jesus?
No, I did not see that.
I got it.
She'd been better off with Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh my God, yes. Motherfucker. Yeah.
I'm gonna try to find it and send it to you guys.
Oh my God, I would love to see. That's too funny.
But it's just like, people cloud themselves up with these ideas and they go with them, don't they? So.
Oh my God, they give themselves total friggin', they need an enema in their brain pan. They really do after that.
So I guess what we should do is maybe we should rate Alice Sweet Alice. So starting with you, Joe, how many sibling rivalries do you give Alice Sweet Alice?
I'm gonna go 4 on this one. I like the mystery suspense angle of it. Mr. Alfonso, just his look.
The pervert, the fat pervert dude.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that guy was
pale like sick as well.
Like that guy was the best part of the movie.
It's funny because I went into this going, I don't remember if I'd ever actually seen it until I watched it last night, and I remembered, the opening, the girl holding the cross as the credits scroll. I'm like, oh shit, I do remember this, and I remember I started writing something, like 20 or so years ago, and I don't know why, but the image came to me of the villain looking like Mr. Alfonso. to the point that like I had a fat guy in, you know, a stained wife beater and stained pants as the villain. And now it came to me, I did that because of this movie, because I was like, I know that one of my friends had a VHS tape of it, and I think we watched it when I was like really, really young, but I don't remember it, and it all came flooding back to me last night.
Well, he was a sketchy pervert, but he wasn't the murderer. But he was a really obscenely vile human being, though.
By the way, he was 28 years old.
He's how old?
28 years old.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
He apparently
committed a feeder. I think he
committed suicide at 31.
Oh, no way. Really?
Yeah.
Well, he did have cankles.
Well, apparently he's in 3 movies. I've seen all 3 of them. It's Alice, Sweet Alice, Bloodsucking Freaks, and
that was him in Bloodsucking Freaks. Oh my God,
he's the gangster in Bloodsucking Freaks, and he's in Joel Reed's Night of the Zombies, which is a terrible movie.
Terrible,
boring as shit. Do not.
I didn't notice him in that.
Well, that's why he committed suicide. Is that film there probably?
But Bloodsucking Freaks, I definitely know who he is in Bloodsucking.
But he, well, apparently, in what I read, and this is, Joel Reed apparently says he had a very beautiful wife, so must have had a hell of a personality.
He was probably a great person.
Yeah, he was involved in local theater, and apparently everybody liked him. When he got movie roles because of how he looked. Unfortunately, this is his lot in life. You know, much like Rondo Hatton, Tor Johnson, all those people who, because of their looks, they had
Bad Albert.
But apparently, from what I read, and this person said that they couldn't confirm it, apparently there was an incident where he got stuck in the turnstile at a subway station. And the media attention brought upon him by this embarrassed him so much that he killed himself. That's what I read. This person said that they couldn't confirm it. From all accounts, so he's everybody who worked with him said he was a very nice person.
That's sad.
But it's just, this is how he looked. This is what he was stuck with.
He's not very bright if he thought he could get through a turnstile, though.
Well, I mean,
sorry.
come on. No, I mean, I don't.
Well, I'm sorry, but if you were that weight, would you be able to get? Would you think you get through a turnstile?
Yeah, exactly.
I've been very pregnant and could not get through a turnstile before. So
I'm 5'7" at 28-inch waist, and I can barely get through most turnstiles half the time.
Yeah, they are kind of small. They really are.
Precisely.
They're not that size, literally.
No.
So yeah, apparently, he had a very sad ending. Unfortunately,
that is sad. That's very sad.
Poor Mr. Kinkle man.
I thought he was the best part of the movie. Tell you the truth,
I liked him actually.
Oh God, the piss stained pants.
Oh, I know. Oh my God.
The only thing that I don't get is how did he ever leave the house? Like he's not in any condition. Like she's gonna give him a check to go deposit for the rent. How the fuck is he going to get he's going to get down those stairs and back up to go to the bank? And I'm not saying this as someone who's like fat shaming.
He liked cats, so he had to go get cat food, obviously.
He did mention the stores don't deliver on Sundays. So clearly he gets things delivered to him.
I bet it smells as well. I bet it smells. I mean, he gets this. The thing is, I got this other thing about this film is that this is probably the only film that actually feels like it's in smell-o-vision.
Yeah,
I don't know, but you just like smell everything that's coming up the street for some reason. I don't know why.
So I'm not saying this is someone who's fat shaming. I mean, I used to be close to 400 pounds, so I'm not going to shame anybody.
Yeah, but you're shallow and self-centered, Keith. Okay.
But it's just like,
of course I am. I'm a psychiatrist. What else should I be?
When you get to that level, like that big, it's like I don't understand. Like when I got to like 350, like my back would hurt going to the mailbox. Like, how does this guy like live? And it's just got to be a sad existence.
Yeah.
Because like he's got to be in a lot of pain all the time. I don't understand how he could go up and down those stairs.
He probably has a feeder. Sometimes they have feeders.
Yeah, maybe somebody comes and picks up.
He's got a carrot.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody comes up and gets the check and goes and deposits it in his account.
Yeah, maybe he's got a
Possibly.
carer or some family members going there to help him.
Or maybe he could train one of his cats.
Fluffy, go deposit this.
Get some cat litter on the way home.
You never see him outside because you can't really
No.
imagine him being outside. Like nowadays, he would get along fine because someone would Venmo him the rent or Zelle him the rent, and he just okay, it's in the
Well,
back.
he was a total whiny baby when he got accosted, though, wasn't he? Big old burly man like that, screaming like a little baby.
I mean, if you found roaches on you, you'd be screaming too.
If I had something like that on me, I would be postal. I'd be pulling out every firearm in this house, and I'd be shooting them little bastards.
I would also never put myself in a position where somebody wanted to just drop roaches on me either, because you got to be a special kind of person.
Well,
for
he
somebody
was
to
kind
be
of a
like-
sickening individual.
Yeah, he
Why
was
did the little girl keep going into his apartment anyway? Why did she do it?
Because he's easy to torment, isn't he?
Yeah, she
a
was a
sadist.
sadistic little shit, is what
Yeah,
she was.
That character is definitely a little bit of a sadist.
Yeah. If I had a daughter, that's what she'd be like.
Yeah, I bet.
Probably.
I can't believe you all agree. Can't believe you all agree to that. Thank you very much.
Just watch. Well, I was just about to say, just watching the way you torture Vicky. I'm like, yeah, I can see.
Oh my
Little
god!
girl, that's my
I mean, at
heart.
least I know he's fucking around most of the time. I can't imagine what if he was really hating on me, what it would be like. So, yeah.
Actually, I probably just wouldn't be bothered with you at all. I'd probably never hear from you ever.
Well, that's my stance on things. I feel like ball breaking is part of a friendship. As long, like there's a limit to where you.
Oh
can go.
yeah, you always
You
know
should
where your
see the
limits are.
private conversations, private text conversations, or if it's like sometimes once in a while he'll call me, I'll be high as Spaceballs, and he'll keep me on the phone for 2 hours and fuck with me. So I mean, you just never know. You just never know with him.
But yeah, like if I don't like you, I'm not breaking your balls. I'm just not dealing with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I give it 4 sibling rivalries. Is that what we're giving it? 4 sibling
sibling rivalries.
Because this is, it feels like a Giallo.
Looks
Obviously,
like a Giallo.
He looks like a Giallo, feels like a Giallo, and I love a good Giallo. I really enjoyed this. I like the mystery of it. I didn't remember who the killer was. I thought it was, wow, if this turns out to actually be Alice, this is going to be like really on the nose.
It was too obvious.
Yeah, it would have been too obvious. Thankfully, also even when we do see the old woman when she's not, before she's revealed as a killer, when she's dealing with the Monsignor who can't really get around.
Right.
And so why'd I have to come down? I don't feel good because I'm not coming up and down the stairs. Why the fuck are you doing this job then? Your job is to be a caretaker for this person. Well, fucking take care of them. So you can kind of see the kind of bitchiness of her there. So, and she is definitely, an evil person who tries to justify the evil things
She's
she
a
does.
psycho. That's what she is.
Absolutely enjoy this movie.
And what about yourself, David? How many sibling rivalries do you give Alice, sweet Alice?
That's been challenging, to be honest. I've got a lot of good points, but a lot of uncomfortable points. The good points is the fact that it makes me kind of challenging. It challenged my thinking. So it's kind of like the Catholic background of the kind of like, oh, could be anti-Catholic or maybe not, or maybe it just makes you think about it. So that's interesting. Kind of like throwing the family values in the bin, like a great kind of a contrast of what maybe back in the days people used to think. I love the way they portrayed Alice as well, because there was a big twist at the end that I expected her to be the killer. Obviously, she was angry at the mother, the sister, the auntie. She was vengeful. She was moaning, and she was weird at that part when she was at the institute, and the mother going to visit her, and she's bringing the doll, and she's just saying, "Well, no, I don't need a doll. I'm too old for that." Made me feel like, okay, so she's kind of grown up, and the mother doesn't know her own daughter.
Her mother was really detached from her, I thought.
It was like, okay, that's a good excuse to make her the killer, because she's kind of like, well, my mother doesn't love me. We need to talk about Kevin.
In Alice's defense, and I hope, like I said, sorry, Ma, But when I was in Catholic school, I was a problem child for all kinds of reasons.
No,
Yeah.
really?
But my mother always believed them flipping nuns over me all the time. And half the time it was because there was a lot of shit going on, you know. They were really cruel to us girls. I mean, they were cruel beyond measure. So, I mean, if I was Alice, there's a lot of people I wanted to knock off when I was in 7th grade. That's all I got to say.
There was a nun the school that I went to that was picking on my brother. And what she would do is she would go behind him and she would like pull his hair.
Yeah,
and stuff
all
like
that shit.
And my mother had to go down to the office and be like, no, this doesn't happen. I do not want you. Look, my kid might do some things that aren't necessarily good, but that doesn't give you the right to physically put your hands on it.
She's doing God's work. How dare your mother suggest that she's not doing God's work?
Right?
Well, they were mean to us because the titty fairy came in 6th grade. Holy shit, you know, when you got
yeah, but what do you expect? I mean, they're period and they never got laid. I mean, of course they're gonna be frustrated.
I think there was some stuff going on with them women.
Yeah, they say there's a lot of lesbianism
going on.
So is this
there's a lot of finger cuffing going on, you know.
So we're gonna be covering images in a convent?
Or God,
actually, the funniest thing ever is I have a friend who's an actress, and she was playing Mary Magdalene in a film. And the thing is that she did all her scenes with this nun, and she didn't think anything of it because she said, "Oh, the other scenes are being filmed and stuff like this." So we went to the finale in the West End in Piccadilly Cinema. And we went to go see this and come to find out she had all her scenes, but they were intercut with lesbian nuns having sex with each other.
I would have paid to walk in on that.
And the funny thing about it is like her parents are there, all her friends are there, and also they're going,
oh, fuck. What was the name of this movie? Christopher Lee. Fuck, I'm trying to look at my Jess Franco movies right now. Eugenie, the story of her journey into perversion. Which right away you should know what the fucking movie is, but it's based on Marquis de Sade's fuck. It's based on de Sade. I don't remember specifically which one. I don't remember the title at least. But there's a special feature on it where Christopher Lee talks about how he was hired to come in and read de Sade, and he wasn't aware when they cut the movie that there were all these orgies taking place in front of him.
Like Caligula.
He found out about it.
Oh God, Caligula. That movie still cracks me up. The big circle jerk.
But the funny thing is he found out about this movie. He found out about the content of this fucking movie when one of his friends called him and told him that it was playing at a porno theater in London.
Well, my friend Christine, but the worst thing about my friend Christina's movie is like, oh, no one will ever see this after. She was embarrassed, but she took it on good. No one will ever see this. And for 6 years, it would be on like every weekend. It'd be on like Channel 4 at 1 o'clock in the morning. Repeat. It would play for like 1 to 5 in the morning on a repeat over and over for 5 years, every Saturday and Sunday, every Friday and Saturday, not Sunday.
What movie was that?
Oh God, what was it? Something like The Blood of Christ or something stupid like that.
That's the way of things.
I have a
Imagine
copy
that exploitation.
I have a copy of it somewhere, and every time she comes over after she finds it, she throws it at me and tells me to fuck off. So she went from playing Hilary Swank's mother in Affairs of the Necklace to this.
Wow.
So you never know. So, how many sibling rivalries did you give it, David, before we go off course again?
Yes.
I would say 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5.
Okay.
Do you like this one better than The Little Girl Lives Down the Lane? Okay.
Definitely 100%.
Okay.
Definitely.
David is an honest man.
What about yourself, Victoria?
I will give it 4 Anton Zander levays. I liked it a lot, but you know what? You want to talk about me being a snowflake and getting triggered? This will do it. Absolutely.
Catholicism?
Yes, yes, it
Well, those of
will.
us who went to Catholic schools, yeah. You did mention earlier those uniforms are spot on because they looked exactly like the uniforms that that the little girls in my school
Oh God,
would wear
the,
in grammar
the,
school.
the skirts, the blouses, the princess collars, the saddle shoes,
And the
socks.
and the vests, yeah.
God, man, I wish I would have saved it I wish I would have kept those uniforms when I was like 25, 26. I could have made some real money off them back in the day.
Especially if you sell it to like Asian cinema, they love those out uniforms.
I know.
So, I'm gonna give this a 3.5. I think. For some reason, in my mind, this film's better than what it is. And then I watch it, and I kind of just feel kind of dirty afterwards. I don't know what it is, but there's a lot I like. I love the way the way the attention to detail and the way the people look like people. I mean, they look like people from my family album. I mean, if you look at my family, they're all dressed like that and everything. So because I was born in '65 and stuff like that. So yeah, that's maybe 3.5. I'm gonna sit there and say because my mind tends to wander a little bit during this movie.
Yeah,
you know,
that's why I went from a 5 to a 4. It wandered a little bit, but not enough for me to say, "Oh, it's a bad movie." I think it's a very good movie.
My mind wanders when Paula Marshall's not on the screen. I find her fascinating.
I agree with that. I agree.
And when she's off there, and then when we find out it's Mrs. Tsunade, I'm kind of like, and then I kind of lost interest after that.
And that speaks to Davide's point that he felt the killer should have been revealed at the very end.
That would have been on my list of the negative things. Yes,
I think with a lot of these slasher mysteries, I do feel like that's the point where like you don't need like a half-hour climax because people are just trying to figure out who the killer is the whole time. So I think once that happens, at that point it just becomes, well, how is the hero going to get away? In this movie, though, I like that it actually uses that to go into why she's doing it before the eventual.
I like that.
Hero dispatching it.
But then it kind of like, and then I think it's just because Paula Marshall kind of just falls to the side and then she kind of disappears and then she comes back and she's putting the butcher knife in her bag and that's the end of the movie. So it's kind of like, where's she now?
She just kind of disappears.
Yeah, and I think if she was a bit more centralized or somewhere more around or even a couple of things, I probably would have given it a 4.
But I wonder now if the title does it a disservice, because when you call the movie Alice, Sweet Alice, and Alice disappears halfway through the movie, it would have like I have the Arrow release of it, which the box is Alice, Sweet Alice. When you put the movie in, the title card is Communion.
Yeah, that's how I saw it.
Communion is probably the more appropriate title for this movie.
I agree with that. That's a really valid point.
I just found Paula Marshall or Alice's character very, very interesting.
Yeah.
And it just feels like she's been dropped out of the movie at halfway point, and then they brought her back in for the final scene. And I don't know how you would incorporate her in, but it would have been interesting to figure out how to make her. She doesn't have to be a central character, but it'd be interesting that she's involved somewhere, or even if she's finding her father or finding the guy with the cockroaches or finding a body or something. It's just kind of like she gets sent off and disappears.
Well, the problem is by that point we know it's not her, so now she's no longer necessary.
Right.
What
we technically when did we figure out it was the old lady doing it?
About an hour and 15 in, because I remember at that point looking at my clock going, wait a minute, how much time has gone past? Because this I felt like this was really early, and then I realized like there's still like 40 minutes left in this movie.
Yeah, that was kind of soon, wasn't it? I wonder why he did that.
I think it basically is to fill out Mrs. Tsunade. I mean, the actress playing Mrs. Tsunade is a very respected actress anyway. Yeah. They wanted Geraldine Page to play that part.
Right.
But Geraldine Page was on Broadway, so Geraldine Page brought them this woman instead. So,
I've got this instead of another idea. What if this instead was a sort of origin story? So we see Alice seeing arguments, death, fear, abandonment in the institute, whatever, and suddenly, after all the killing and after all the drama, etc., suddenly she gets like, okay, so I'm supposed to kill now. Let me get the knife. So I've learned that's how I'm supposed to be. I don't know. It's kind of like she becomes the product of all this like the kind of like the bad products of this whole mess. And it's kind
I
of
would
like
have liked Alice
sweet
to be the
Alice.
murderer. I would like her to be the murderer, Alice. I would like her to be the murderer.
I would have liked to seen how that played out too.
Yeah, I mean, nothing.
I feel like
Nothing's
it would have
better.
too obvious.
A little.
if they would have done
Yeah, it
that.
would have been too obvious. So it kind of has that whatever happened to Auntie, who slew Auntie Rue or whatever happened.
This is definitely a good dose
Kind of got
of
that kind of feel
Catholic
to it.
guilt, the whole movie.
I looked up Alfred Soule, and he's he made 4 movies. The 2 after this are both horror movies. Before this, he made a porno.
Yeah, and that's the reason why he's
I didn't
anti-Catholic.
know that.
That's the reason why he's anti-Catholic, because he made the porn film and the church gave him hell for it. His community did, and he got kicked out of church
people are that
for his
religious.
porn film.
Everybody's fucking, but nobody wants to talk about it.
Sometimes, well, it depends what you look like, whether we want to see it or not. So.
Yeah, true. Like
Well, this
geriatric
is-
sex that I wasn't pretty aware of that was coming. Okay.
Precisely. Well, this brings us to the end of the Literary License podcast. Next week, we'll be covering The Color Purple by Alice Walker and the Steven Spielberg film of the same name. And, of course, in our next time we'll do M&M, we'll be covering 2 classics, which will be M, the Fritz Lang film, dealing with a child pedophile, again, because we just love that theme, and Badlands with Martin Sheen and Sissy Spacek. And of course, our remake is Scarface, the 1930s version, and the 1980s Brian De Palma version. And of course, we'll be continuing with our Batman and our Doctor Who retrospectives. So it's good night for myself. Good night, Joe.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Vix.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, David.
Buonanotte. Good night.
And we'll see you next week for The Color Purple. And God, you sure is ugly.
Each time I see a little girl of 5 or 6 or 7, I can't resist a joyous urge to smile and say thank heaven for little girls. For little girls get bigger every day. Thank heaven for little girls. They grow up in the most delightful way. Those little eyes so helpless and appealing, one day will flash and send you crashing through the ceiling. Thank heaven for little girls. Thank heaven for them all, no matter where, no matter who. Without them, what would little boys do? Thank heaven, thank heaven. Thank heaven for little girls. Those little eyes so helpless and appealing, one day will flash and send you crashing through the ceiling. Thank heaven for little girls. Thank heaven for them all, no matter where, no matter who. Without them, what would little boys do? Thank heaven, thank heaven. Thank heaven for little girls.